That's the fives. Let's push all the buttons. I'm pushing buttons, Internet. Okay, everything should be working accordingly. Let me know about how things be. Let's go ahead and tab over. That sleek tabarino. There it is. A little lag there. Okay, hi. Welcome back to Fail Portrayal. We're here to talk about stuff in Yu-Gi-Oh! Cards and things. Thank you, Troy. You sound good. Okay. Loth will maybe not be joining us today because we've got a shorter one. And he's got a thing, so. And as usual, God knows if Dallas will stumble inside. He is alive, if you have been keeping track of his bronchitis. But I don't know if we'll actually see him or not. It'll depend on when he sees the notification and when he's not doing something. But alright, as you can see from your screen, today we're going to continue our World Legacy Time thing. Last time we talked about the World Chalice and their associated World Legacies, and the Crawlers and their associated World Legacy. To kind of recap everybody on the story, because I don't think actually, thinking back, we had a great through line. And actually, does anybody remember if Master Duel actually told the quote-unquote creation myth? It probably did something like that, but I don't remember it as cleanly. In the actual Master Guide 6, there's a text box. There's a piece of box text like it's a fucking D&D adventure that explains the whole thing. There was a god, there was the heavens, the god used the dragons, and the cycle of creation and destruction. This is, again, probably why we assume that Dual Terminal is involved, because we really like to use that creation and destruction thing. But the balance of power got really fucked up, so destruction was really, really strong, so we sealed destruction in the center of the Earth by burying it in layers of crust. That's right, there wasn't a planet, apparently, until we decided to seal up creation and destruction. Well, just destruction. And then destruction cooled to become the molten core of the planet. It's very weird, Chad, is what I'm saying. But yeah, so creation and destruction are a whole thing. There's a key. The key is important. Do all the stuff. The key part, at least, did get carried over to Master Duel very well. But our friends, Aurum, Ib, Ningirsu, and their dog, and by dog I mean dragon, went to go meet the World Chalice, being led by a fairy. They were trying to fight all the crawlers, and they found a World Chalice fairy, and they found some juice, and they got powered up. And they went to go get more World Legacies and fight the crawlers at the World Legacy armor. And that's where we are right now. Because these guys, the Mekk-Knights, showed up. Now, in the OCG, the Mekk-Knights are named Jack-Knights, as in, like, an audio jack, is the, what it's supposed to be going for. What are apparently officially called Jack Plugs. Though they also have a play on words to, you know, involve, like, machine world and stuff. They do also, by the way, actually, the Mekk-Knights do actually have jack plugs on their body. So, neat details. Now, we mentioned last time that World Chalice wasn't necessarily a super good deck. It was kind of everybody's first Link deck because it was designed that way, right? And certainly there have been good World Chalice cards, but it was not like a tournament-topping deck a lot of the time. Similarly, Crawlers never went anywhere competitively, but I believe they have been rogue at certain points, and as kind of one of Konami's first attempts to bring back flip monsters, that's the word I'm looking for. Anyway, in their attempts to bring back flips, people were like, oh, these are cool. However, they still haven't really gone anywhere, even though, as we discussed Crawler Soma last time, they have fucking busted-ass legacy support, and they still won't go nowhere. This will not be true of tonight's archetypes. We're going to be talking about Mekk-Knights and then Nightmares. I said this before we got started to Axe. Nightmares, I don't think really count as a meta deck because they literally have 3 total main deck monsters, one of whom we will not be talking about tonight because Orchestrated Nightmare is as much an Orchest card as it is a Nightmare card. We're also going to skip a couple of the Mekk-Knights that are just other archetypes also.
Honestly, it's like the Nightmares are less an archetype and more of they were just the staples of the Link era that kind of escalated Yu-Gi-Oh a lot in very specific ways.
Yeah, much like World Chalice was kind of Konami being like, okay, gamers, we're going to introduce you to your first Link climbing deck. Nightmares were more like, oh fuck, how do we make people Link summon besides just make Firewall Dragon loops? What do we do?
They're your toolbox kit.
And the fact that out of 6 of them, 2 of them are banned says a lot.
Link ones, but yeah.
Well, actually, no. Mermaid is the only Link one. Goblin is a 2.
Oh,
I said out of 6 of them, there are 6 extra deck Nightmares. 2 of them are banned.
Honestly, I know like this is an MBT take, and most people think that's when he does. When he does a take, people can't repeat it without sounding like an idiot. But I feel like he had the point about it. It's like the Nightmares caused certain card design to escalate in bad ways.
I mean, I don't think that's entirely true because MBT has said this before, if you don't know, chat, about floodgates. Basically, because Phoenix exists, we'll take Cerberus out of this equation because there are 1-card cards that just pop a special summon monster, not going -3 to pop a special summon monster, which is what Cerb does. But Phoenix basically means any 2 monsters plus a discard can remove a piece of back row. I think that does kind of push lower level back row out of the game, but all of the bullshit floodgates people play because they stop Nightmares already existed, except maybe Teekboo. Like, Summon Limit was printed a long time ago. Technically, Mystic Mine was printed later, but also mine's weird. But like, Summon Limit, Skill Drain. Skill Drain's bounced off and on the the thing. Hell, there are cards that don't do anything to stop Phoenix, but are still like banned, like IO, right? I think he has an interesting point. Yu-Gi-Oh often has this level of escalation, but I mostly think that escalation exists in the minds of the players. Like, could Konami probably do some more interesting things with card design if Nightmare Phoenix specifically didn't exist? Yeah, sure, probably. But what would they be making that's interesting? Back row cards that don't do anything when popped? We got a million of those. Yeah, so I think definitely when they first came out, though, they were obviously way ahead of the power curve. But we'll get into that in a little bit. But what I was saying about Mekk-Knights was, Mekk-Knights are a deck that have been meta. I grammaticalized that weird, but that's because I realized I was going somewhere in a tangent completely unrelated to what I started my sentence as. We were here to talk about Mekk-Knights first. Mekk-Knights were meta. Actually, I think, let me pull that tab back up about top decks. Technically, I think there was... as early as last year, somebody finished 5th with a Mekk-Knight deck in a regional in the TCG. And it is, in fact, just Mekk-Knights. I mean, they have a DPE package because that's the, extra thing du jour, but that's like 3 cards. They're playing like Avrams, Blue Skies, Greens, 3 purple. 3 Gears too, obviously, because that guy's fucking cracked. We will not be talking about that one tonight, unfortunately, because, like I said, he's as much an Orcus card as a Mekk-Knight. Like 1 Godarla? Yeah, 3 Dark Rulers. Okay. It was also a Mine deck. They're main decking Mine. I guess if you just make big asshole Mekk-Knights, then Mine isn't a problem. But no, like, in general, this is a huge, Link deck. But Mekk-Knights have been good a lot. The best version overall is Mekk-Knight Invoked. Go check out our Invoked Fail Betrayal if you want to know more about that, but the Mekk-Knights kind of flow into that one fairly well. So there's that. But there have been some other variants, like Sky Striker Invoke, Sky Striker Invoke Mekk-Knight, Brilliant Fusion Mekk-Knight Engines, Sky Striker Mekk-Knight on its own. And somebody got, it was only like 26th place, but somebody got here with Cyframe Mekk-Knight Guardians, or Guard Dragons. So they've been pretty flexible. And as much as I said, MBT has talked about, how Phoenix made it so that you got to be careful about your back row because fundamentally any 2 monsters makes a guy. I think that the mere existence of Mekk-Knights has changed the way people play Yu-Gi-Oh! Because any two cards you put in the same column are now a large asshole if you don't know what you're going against. This means that literally, physically, you have to play Yu-Gi-Oh! Differently if you don't want to get blown out by Mekk-Knights. Now, obviously, that's not as much of a concern these days, though people do still side or main certain Mekk-Knights for certain builds because they're just free extension. And so it's a thing you got to watch out for. And, like, it's become, you know, a meme. Oh, we're playing around the Mekk-Knight columns, even when we're, you know, playing in Legacy formats way, way before Mekk-Knights exist. But it's very interesting to see how these guys have kind of settled in. Now, what actually the fuck a Mekk-Knight is, little loosey-goosey. Even though technically normally we'd start with Mekk-Knight Avram, and the beauty of check this out, that obviously comes out later, so we're going to start at the top of the rainbow, and I'll get out Red Moon. But what I was going to say was, the Mekk-Knights are very unusual. I think in some card arts, it implies that they're huge, right? But in other card arts, they are very clearly human scale. And then the nightmares are kind of all over the place as well, so it's unusual. They're basically supposed to be like the leaders of this, you know, machine New World Order that our heroes find themselves in the post-apocalyptic wasteland. The Mekk-Knights are the ultimate guys who are, like, commanding the crawlers and the whatnot. So, let's pull up Red Moon. So, they are machines. I mean, externally they're machines. They are psychic monsters, actually. But they are machine in appearance. The fact that they are psychics probably says something about the fact that normal Aurum is also a psychic. But their appearance is mechanical. And here's Red. You can see that one of his arms is indeed a headphone jack. Nope. Sorry. We're lagging out. Scooch you forward a little. All right. But yeah, so I also mentioned they're called Jack Knights in the original there. In Japanese, they also have much more, I don't know if it's like robust. They have a slightly different naming scheme. The Mekk-Knights in English are usually named after something celestial. This guy, for instance, is Red Moon. In the OCG, he is Guren no Jacknaitsu, Jack Knights of the Crimson Lotus, you know, oranges of the flickering flame, etc. So they're a little more strict in their coloration, like, tropes, but they went for the Celestial. It's kind of the reverse of how World Legacy ended up being, you know, was formerly, like, Star Treasures. Let me get OBS pulled up so I can see the chat box. Now I read. Because I'm dying out here.
You know, I'm for real. Not until you like brought it up today, I never noticed like the jack input, like the male input jack plug.
Yeah, it's not the kind of thing you normally notice.
Because it's like that makes it like, oh wait, all the things are literally like inputted limbs. It's like the axe is being held because it's inputted at the base, so it's just an extension of his arm. Yeah,
and you can see. Make sure I'm highlighting. Yeah, you can see my cursor. Sorry, I had my notepad open in front of my OBS. But you can see in this arm that it really is just, because there's like the little wristlets and stuff, it really just ends where the jack ends, so you can plug and play. So yeah, they plug in. This guy's Red Moon. He's very red. Again, it's the kind of thing you probably don't notice unless you're looking real close, because it's a very small detail, especially in Red Moon here.
Also, this is a weird thing, but I feel like its legs and like its bottom half are like very like Kingdom Hearts 2 boss design.
Yeah,
and
It's
just
got
like
a something.
it's kind of
about it.
wispy and like thin, but like thick in different places.
Yeah. And again, keep in mind, chat, this guy is, you know, variably either a pretty tall guy or like man-sized. So his construction level is interesting. He's got a big red gem in the center. I believe this is yet another instance of crystalline plot coupons we'll come back to. But he's got his little jacks. He's got his big head, but then he's also got a brain in there, little eyeball area, like vagueness of a mouth. So this is a point I want to bring up now, not because I have any particular commentary on it, but I just want to remind everybody, as I said, these guys are actually psychic type. They are meant to be mechanical beings in nature, which also technically so are the crawlers, but the crawlers are classed as insects because they're like biomechanical goopmen. But the Jack-Knights or Mekk-Knights are like explicitly mechanical beings. The Mekstrosities was the localized term we saw in a lot of World Chalice fluff earlier. But they're psychic type. What does that mean? Who knows? Yeah, so there's probably like something else going on in there. The World Legacy storyline in Master Duel definitely made it clear that there is some level of Magitech in the setting. You know, Lee, spoilers, Lee did everything wrong. It's all her fault. But Lee designed these guys to kind of, like, protect the power of destruction and keep it in check so that when they finally unleashed the key, everything would be cool. But she also put in a back door because
She wanted to be there.
Her research associates thousands of years ago were like, we're gonna keep this securely sealed away so that it doesn't trouble humans. We don't need a hero with the key. And Lee was like, man, I really want to see what the power of destruction does, though. I want to see what the inside of the Earth looks like. Show me the Earth's core. And then, because the key's powers were faded and there was no hero because that's the legend of the World Chalice. So she was like, I need a hero, and then activated the back door and killed everybody, which is why these guys are going around fucking everything up. I'm going to guess somewhere in this instance, you know, it's probably when, like, her physical body died and she became a computer fairy. A data elf, like this is Mega Man Zero. Which is presumably why the Mekk-Knights are doing their own thing until after Lee gets back involved in the plot. But anyway, we'll continue to cover that as we go through more story-related stuff. This is Big Red Moon. He's big.
Plot literally is just Mega Man. It is just one of the Mega Man X plots. When I think about it, yeah.
It's definitely very Mega Man-esque. So, Red Moon. Sorry, let me move around my tabs. Red Moon is a level 7 light psychic. He's got 2,300 attack, 2,600 defense, so you might think he's all attack, but no. He's actually got more defense. He still is one of your better attackers. And this is the effect that all of the main deck Mekk-Knights have that is important. If 2 or more cards are in the same column, you can special summon this card in that column. Y'all thought columns didn't mean shit? You were wrong. People were playing fucking Senate Switch back in the day. Additionally, Red Moon says you can only summon him once per turn this way. You can banish a Mekk-Knight in your graveyard, target a face-up monster in this card's column, destroy it. So Red Moon is a pop to banish a guy, which is just kind of part of your lupus, your loopadoop. And he's perfectly normal. And let's grab our next card art. I mean, these guys go with anything where you can set cards. Next in our rainbow is Orange Sunset. You can see, once again, he's got the jack plug hands. He's got kind of a weirdly asymmetrical head. He's also got the kind of, like, weirdly spindly feet. You got to assume that these guys can just fly for no reason, because otherwise, how do they get anywhere on these little fucking pointy legs? This poor motherfucker is permanently on an on-point stance. But he also has big shield shoulders. And you might think, that he like wields them with his arms. No, I don't see any jack sockets in there. I think he punches with his jack hands and also has big shoulder shields because those have like a little separate mount up here. Also, look, there's his Jimmy. He's got a lot of them. He's got a lot of gems.
Yeah, it's just like a field projector kind of like arms, and then it's got the thing that looks like they can like detach a bit or something.
They definitely are articulated and can possibly come off. I'm not sure. I wouldn't say that, somebody joked about Gundams earlier. I wouldn't say that these guys necessarily give us Gundam vibes, but there's definitely a little bit of mecha inspiration in some of their way they work. By the way, Orange Sunset is Toe flickering flame. So, orange like fire. I think Orange Sunset probably is a little more direct, but it's not like a two-syllable word in Japanese, probably. But yeah, orange, pretty good. Also, yeah, somebody in chat mentioned it. I think I said that off mic, but I did say we would be covering the field spell exactly because it's very funny. That card art is the thumbnail card art where we can actually talk about what War Legacy Scars does, because it's kind of crazy. Don't really have much to add about Sunset, though. He is another Mekk-Knight, and he's orange. So what he does is he's a level 6. He's got 800 attack and 3k defense. He is the big booty one, as you might guess from the giant shields. If an opponent's card in this column is destroyed by battle or leaves the field, you can special summon a Mekk-Knight. So Sunset, basically, as you get rid of monsters in this card's column, you can summon extra guys. Sunset's not super popular because this is a bad effect for his own stat line. He doesn't have a pop, and no fucking way he's getting rid of anybody in his column by battle. So it's kind of a weird one, but you do still see him played at like 1 or 2, I think, because of his, depending on what exact deck you're running and what ratios you're in, because of the fact that he has a huge ass. And sometimes you need blockers. So we'll go ahead and grab our next boy. The funny thing is, the first thing we're going to look at, red, orange, yellow, in case you can't guess how they correspond to the nightmares, these guys correspond to the most popular nightmares, and they're just kind of the most, they're the most normal Mekk-Knights. It's very funny. So our next one will be Yellow Star. This one was Oka, Yellow Bloom, in the OCG. And immediately this one gives me more feminine vibes, with a very tiny waist and very big hips.
It also gives me like Thunderbird vibes.
Yeah, there's definitely something about that large wingspan.
And also the head shape of the head looks like an animal beak.
Oh yeah, that's a very
It reminds me of why am I forgetting the name? It reminds me of Kaneko's design of Thunderbird for like Atlas games.
Yeah. I also think that the lines of the bird-like helmet is kind of, I know we say it a lot, but it's our first time saying it tonight, so take your shot. Very tokusatsu. With the that's a, speaking also of SMT style, Featherman. Bird-like helmets are not unknown in the tokusatsu space. Yes, also that's a good point that Spirit and Lapis said in chat. The row of wings back there, very similar to the vector traps Anubis has in Zone of the Enders. Like I said, I don't want to say straight up these guys are Gundam-inspired. I think they take a lot of cues from a lot of mecha tropes.
I was thinking they were more like Gunpla inspired to me, which is a bit like almost like Gundam, but like slightly different because there's usually like slightly different things that have to do with the design and weight of them.
Well, yeah, depending on what exact Gunpla kit you've got, you will need to make some kind of adjustments for realism.
So like it makes me more think of that, honestly, and just like the way they're like articulated and the way their extra bits work.
Also not
Also-
noticing where Yellow Star
Also, is
has
it just
the
me, but does
jackets.
it feel like the main body of this Mekk-Knight was drawn separately, like in a different layer of like the Photoshop thing they were using?
I mean, that may be the accomplishes effect, because this is definitely an instance of perspective. This array of the vector traps, the space coffins, whatever you want to call them, the quills, is definitely behind Yellow Star. So, also, by the way, speaking to its avian influences, look at those feet. You can't see a lot of them, but they look like there's a little bit of Talon energy in there. Which, by the way, makes this all the more funny. This one turns into unicorn later. This is not the bird one.
That's funny.
Yeah, we're going to see a couple of funny ones in there. But yeah, so Yellow Star. I like this one. Again, it's not just because of I'm the fucking big Zone of the Enders guy. Love that vector traps, but it's looking separate from the others while still maintaining, obviously, the very direct design cues of being, mechanical but humanoid, and a lot of these recurring instances of the crystal, the primary colors, etc. It's a very solid one. Yes, indeedy. The Mekk-Knights literally become the nightmares. All but one of them, but we'll be talking about that 7th transformation later. So Yellow Star is another level 7 psychic, 22 attack, 28 defense, has the normal special summoning requirements, and then its effect is basically the same as Red Moon, but for spell traps. Banish a Mekk-Knight monster, target a spell trap in this column, destroy it. Again, Yellow Star, not super popular, usually played as like a one-of in the Wombo combos. It's got a good stat line, especially, again, if you need blockers. It's got 7s, so that means combined with Red Moon, you can do rank 7 plays. Obviously, that got a lot more popular. Actually, that's a good question. I don't think Kashtira needs to, but has Kasht ever splashed Mekk-Knights? Somebody's probably tried
I'm not
that.
sure.
Once again, they're just free level 7s, and it's not like you don't set back row in Kashtira. One of your key cards is a continuous spell.
I think the thing is that usually when you play Mekk-Knights, you want other Mekk-Knights to go with you. You don't usually play just one. So it'd be like, I think it'd be a larger
yeah, but
package,
you
probably
could
once in the
play
deck.
like one of Red Moon, Yellow Star, etc. There's probably some searching there that goes with some nonsense, but you would not probably play the full package because only some of them are 7s. But food for thought. All right, and then our next one is. Because in case you haven't guessed it, chat, we're going in rainbow order. So after Roy comes G. This is Mekk-Knight Green Horizon. Or in the TCG, Suiran no Jakunaitsu. Green Heights. I think Green Horizon works a little bit better.
This just looks like a Toku suit.
Yes, this one is. We've talked before about how some of them are a little more mecha leaning. This one's definitely more of the actual Toku suit leaning. And again, considering that in some card arts, these guys appear to be entirely exactly human sized, not out of the question. But yeah, this one is clearly the archer. You can see kind of like energy around their little plug, but that's got like a. With the front arrow, it looks like a bow. It could also be some kind of rod or staff thing, but it is hard to tell because we're zoomed too close in. I do kind of like the little ring helmet and the dangly bits, but this one's a little more minimalist than some of the others, so I don't think there's much to say about Green Horizon. He's green. So this is another level 6. It's a Psychic, 2100 attack, 1600 defense. You can special summon. When attack is declared involving this card and an opponent's monster in this card's column, add a Mekk-Knight monster from your grave to your hand. Again, Green Horizon, not super popular. I think it's another one of just for more names. It's an okay effect, but again, it doesn't have the best stat line. You'll notice this problem a lot with a lot of Mekk-Knights. They're very defense heavy, and even when they're offense heavy, they're very, very normal stat lines for their stars. I assume Konami was trying to be a little cautious because of the fact that they're just free specials once per turn. At least once per turn by their own effect, mind you. But yeah, this is just a recovery tool. It's pretty standard, but not a whole hell of a lot to talk about. So our next one is very important for plot stuff and also moderately important to your deck. Do we not have a internet? Do we not have a normal card art of Blue Sky?
What? Seriously?
Why have there are translucents of like his Master Duel cutout, but like where's the full art? Guys, this man is a here we go. Found the right one. It's a little small, but I found one. I'm gonna say this guy's like a secret rare. You can't fucking see him otherwise. All right, Blue Sky. He is a man with jackknife hands. He's got 2 swords. Each has a gem in it. I like his cape. That said, I think it's mandatory for me to say this, especially as Loth is not here. This one gives me Digimon vibes.
I would say he's the most fully humanoid, so he mostly feels like the most person in suit.
This makes sense for design stuff later, but yeah. He's got a really cool cape. He's got the swords. He's got a nice helmet. It's interesting that out of this is the 5th one we've covered out of our friends, the Mekk-Knights. He has the most different color scheme. He is primarily kind of gold or bronzed, and then has like darker interior inserts, as opposed to like most of the rest of them are mostly like white or silver with a little bit of black and gold.
He's like meant to be the head unit. Also, I've always gotten the impression that it felt like his blades were like he didn't have hands or jacks. They just like you screw the blades onto his hands.
Well, yeah, since we know they are, that's why they're called Jack Knights. They're definitely plugged in, but yes, you can't really see the seams in this. But yes, Blue Sky is a level 5. And by the way, Blue Sky is so far the only one who has the same name other than the Jack Knights flip. The only one that has the same name in both Japanese and English. He is Sokyu no Jack Knightsu, which is Jack Knight of the Blue Sky. He's a level 5 psychic. 2k attack, 2500 defense. You can special summon him. If this card is normal or special, add Mekk-Knights with different names from your deck to your hand that are not Blue Sky, equal to the number of cards in this card's column. Your opponent's cards, I should specify. You can only use effective Blue Sky once per turn. So yes, Blue Sky is important. He is your searcher. When you summon him to a column, you will be adding a number of cards. Minimum, you're adding 1 card, because in order for you to be able to summon him, there need to be 2 cards in the column, which means usually 1 in your back row and at least 1 in your opponent's row. If your opponent is silly enough to stack 2 in the same column, when they really didn't have to, you get to add 2 different Mekk-Knights, and that can really get you going. So Blue Sky is a very important enabler to the deck, but not the strongest one. Kind of makes him feel like he's kind of the caller, the signaler of the group. He summons forth the boys. Ugh. Sorry, this scan of Indigo Eclipse is awful. Let me hope I find out. Yes, okay. We've got a good art. Hey, chat. It's everybody's favorite Mekk-Knight, Move Man. With the power to move. This is Indigo Eclipse.
This reminds me of a mech from a physics series, which was it was a lady who was the dedicated support unit. Her didn't have legs because her entire unit was meant to be sensors. So this feels like it's a portal, or it's a giant chakra mixed with being a pseudo portal thing. So like,
yeah, it's. I mean, I don't know if portal works because it's plugged into his hand, so he'd be constantly teleport spliced. But yeah, it's a giant ring blade. It also has no legs, and it kind of floats on something that could be a hover ring, or, because they're Jack Knights, could just be a giant audio dish. I do like the helmet design on this one's a little different.
This feels like the support unit, but mostly because I think of the units from Majestic Prince. But
yeah, when I actually Google Indigo as a color swatch, I will say. It makes sense that this is called deep blue in Japanese, obviously meant to be indigo, but we're definitely leaning more on the like navy blue side.
I'm amazed they just didn't call like the original and sky like the other sky like sapphire, or like this one called this one sapphire.
Well, because sapphire's not in a rainbow X.
Fair. 4 feels like a sapphire color.
Yeah, it's pretty close to natural sapphires. That's definitely a very deep blue. And being gemily, with their big power crystals and shit, that would make more sense. But, and again, in, Japanese, this is called Konpeki no Jack-Knights, as in, Jack-Knights of the deep blue. So, it's not quite the same, but I think the TCG translators cottoned on to, like, okay, so these are all the colors in order. It's the order of, rainbow colors. Well, that means this one's indigo. Which is, again, very funny, Technically, you could argue, a lot of people have claimed, and I think there's, like, some science behind this with, like, actually examining the nanometer wavelengths of light, that indigo isn't really a separate color. It's the transitional phase between blue and purple, so our eyes interpret that as a different color when it's really either blue or purple. But there is actually some, like, research, again, measuring nanometer wavelengths of light, that technically cyan is an essential color. So you could argue that indigo eclipse should just be blue, and blue sky should be, like, cyan, but that's getting into high-level physics shit that I'm sure the poor underpaid translators at Konami of America do not get paid enough money to figure out. Anyway, I call Indigo Eclipse Move Man because that is what it is normally called. Indigo Eclipse is a level 8 Psychic, 24/24, so a very middling stat line for its level. You can special summon it the normal way. Once per turn, target a Mekk-Knight you control, move it to another main monster zone. That is all Indigo Eclipse does. It's still pretty important for your deck because this lets you basically summon multiples to the same columns. You can get at least 2 Mekk-Knights out of one setup of double column stacking, which can be useful. So you still play it. It's just very funny. This card exists merely to move around its buddies. Okay, I got some extra tabs. Let me close those up. Clean those tabs. Chat, clean up your tabs. But remember to leave this tab. Alright. And then that takes us to our last main deck Mekk-Knight. Well, out of the ones that have effects. Fun fact. But arguably the most important one to actually playing the deck. Who also, similar to Blue Sky, has a very unique look. It's Purple Nightfall. Who also is the other one who has the exact same name, Shisho, Purple Nightfall. Neat. So yeah, Purple Nightfall seems very similar in design to Blue Sky. If I had to forward a thematical guess, I would say this is the Ningirsu of Mekk-Knights. As opposed to, Blue Sky being the Aurum of Mekk-Knights, for obvious reasons that we will explain shortly. But he also has the alternate color scheme. It's much more dark, like most of his body is black with a little bit of silver, though his cloak is silver, but it's purple on the inside. Keeps the primary color with big gold highlights.
Honestly, I'm kind of amazed they didn't do the whole thing and that Ningirsu also got a thing, but I guess the whole point is that he just wasn't there.
Well, he was there. He was busy soloing all of the other Mekk-Knights.
Right, he was keeping them busy.
Yeah. If you want to talk about, like, power scaling of it, Ningirsu is definitely the Vegeta of this storyline in that while he does cause lots of problems, often on purpose, nothing can't be said for his endurance. He takes a lot of punishment and keeps on ticking. I don't know if he wins a lot of fights, but he somehow doesn't die.
I know he 1v1'd one of the Nightmares and killed them. And that's why he was late to seeing Ib die.
Yeah. He defeated one of the Nightmares.
He had to kill one.
Because he was holding off the groups and so on, yeah. It's very interesting to get all this back and forth. But yeah, so design-wise, I like kind of the purple and the separate color schemes. And this one is also very important, again, because of what he does. So they've done a lot to make him feel different, which is good, because Purple Nightfall, very important. Purple Nightfall's the other level 8, 2500 attack, 2k defense. You can special summon, blah, blah, blah. Then it is quick effect. Target a Mekk-Knight you control. Banish it until the standby phase of your next turn. Add a Mekk-Knight from your deck to your hand except Nightfall. You can only use Nightfall's effect once per turn. Nightfall doesn't have a cute nickname like Moveman, but Purple Nightfall is a really important card to the deck. He searches you, he gets advantage, and also, much like ya boy, Time Thief Redoer, Purple Nightfall is a really annoying card. It is very hard to get rid of this guy, because he can target himself. So he can just quick effect, dodge until the standby phase of your next turn, add another Mekk-Knight. So, very important card for the combo. I'm pretty sure, if possible, you play 3 Nightfall. He is an important man's. A good boy. So. Alright, chat. We've been avoiding it until now, but he's the last main deck monster. We have to talk about check this out. Google, are you fucking with me? Okay. It is. I have to, like, specify card art now, because it's like, oh, you Googled a card name? You want to look at Yu-Gi-Oh cards? I mean, yes, but usually we, like, resize it out. Okay, so this is a little big. Let's go 75% on Mekk-Knight Avram. And again, funnily enough, remember, chosen by the World Chalice, original Aurum is a psychic type. Though his Link version is Cybers, I believe, but he is a psychic man. So yeah, this is just Aurum now in Mekk-Knight cosplay. He has done the thing that we explicitly was stated that the World Chalice guys do, which is they build their gear out of scavenged crawlers, and he just took all of the leftover bits of Blue Sky and is wearing them.
I thought it was more Blue Sky.
Blue Sky gave him his swords. I don't actually know if that is why he has the armor. That's not an explicit, like, card art.
I thought it was said in the solo mode where, like, Blue Sky basically just imprinted his power onto him.
Well, yes, but armor doesn't necessarily equal power, Axe. Because it's not like it's literally the exact same armor that Blue Sky is wearing. You'll notice it has,
it's like a bronze version.
Well, it's a slightly different color scheme, but also you'll notice how, like, there are parts of his leg and stuff that are exposed, whereas the actual Mekk-Knights are completely covered in their armor. So it could be that he spontaneously manifested the armor, or it could just be that he put on the bits that would fit him. But yeah, the swords with their gems and, the blue color scheme, the cloak also are definitely straight up, lifted from Blue Sky's design. He also has added goggles now, so this is his, new season upgrade.
Japanese, like, description just too long.
It might have been. It's a little poetic. I mean, like, it's so...
Like, they already did, again, because they did all the other ones, so it's like, I don't know why they didn't just shortcut the other ones if they shortcut this one.
They edited down. This one was edited a lot, and I'm not really sure why.
They made it like a magic flavor text thing instead of doing what they usually do.
So, it's only 2 lines in Japanese, but obviously it's more poetic, so it becomes 5 lines and kind of like, it's spaced like a poem, but that should have fit in the Yu-Gi-Oh! Text box.
They've done that before with, like, weird shit, like, with, like, the,
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if we'll ever know, but... And I don't think a flavor text has been as bad as Avram since then? Because obviously this card came out in the year 2018. The internet and social media exists. People can fucking Google what the card looks like in Japanese and notice it has, way more text than check this out and be like, hey. So, I don't know. Avram's a level 4 light psychic normal. He has 2k attack and 0 defense. So this kind of solidifies him as just in general a really good card. Like, not only in Mekk-Knights does this give you a normal summon, which might be important, but also being a psychic guy, which works with certain card types, but being a normal 2k beater, not the first of them, but it makes him very flexible. It means in certain decks where you want to play Avram lines, you can, get him off unexpected die, shit like that. And, again, not the worst stat line in the world. Also, you can summon him off Link Spider, very common Link monster. There's a lot of interesting interaction with normals. So, in Japanese, his flavor text reads, roughly translated, "The hero who defends the light of the stars must destroy the darkness of the illusory world and entrust his power to the Chosen One. The will inherited by the Chalice of Stars will become a new key and become the sword that cuts down the darkness." Basically alluding that, Blue Sky will give Aurum his power, and Aurum will gain the power to destroy the nightmares, thus doing specifically the thing where Ibli stabs herself with the Blue Sky sword. So, yeah, I don't know why. That's only like, it's not really that long of a line. I don't know why they didn't want to go for it. So, he was technically a common in Flames of Destruction when he released, so maybe they didn't feel like they wanted to go the extra mile. I don't know. Maybe we were fucking stoned at work that day. Who knows?
I got no clue.
I really don't know. And on the one hand, while there are some things that are frustrating about Konami's opaqueness and certain decisions they make with, like, how they translate things, how they do ban lists, etc., strictly speaking, this is probably not one of those things where I'd, want a straight-up admission from somebody, because I understand how the internet works in 2023, and so being the guy who, chose to write Mekk-Knight Avram as check this out would probably mean that you get dunked on Twitter a lot, while Twitter still exists. You get dunked on Twitch TV/MBT Yu-Gi-Oh! Anyway, that's Avram. And yes, they do actually swap the V. Avuramu, as opposed to Auramu. So he does actually change his name. I think he changes his name a lot. For reasons that I'm sure make sense to the people in Japan, but because he goes, it's Aurum, Avram, Maximus, Equimax, Avramax, Avita.
It feels like there's probably some kind of, like, linguistic pun or something.
Yeah, or it, like, lines up with, like, syllables in, like, a sutra or a mudra or something.
Like how I'm thinking of a thing of... In Japanese, there is, Fukube and Hattori are written using the same characters. It sounds entirely differently.
Yeah, there are a couple. Technically, Shinobi and Ninja are... It's the same word written, but for some reason we decided there's two phonetic pronunciations. There are also, obviously, like, lots of, like, weird counting puns. I don't need to get into the exact way the wordplay works, but for instance, the word Yakuza is a wordplay for, like, a bad hand in... bad luck hand in gambling. Yakuza. And how that got, like... It's like if you called your local gang the Dead Man's Hand, but also because English and Japanese are different, they don't make it the same, like, pun. It's funny how phonetics work like that. Alright, so let us pull up our extra deck, boys, and then we'll talk about a couple of the spell trap arts. Actually, which one of these was released first? Okay, so that's in Horizon. Okay, so Spectrum Supreme was first. I feel like we're going through fucking weather flashbacks now. It's time to chase the rainbow, motherfucker. So this is Spectrum Supreme. Hey, you know how the Jack Knights are made of plug-and-play technology? What if we plug-and-played them all together? So, Spectrum Supreme has Blue Skies Blades, Orange Sunsets Shields, Yellow Stars, Vector Trap Thingies, Purple Nightfalls, Spear, Red Moon's Axe, Indigo Eclipse, Ringblade, Chakram Thing, and we still don't get to see the end of whatever the fuck Green Horizon has, so it's just a weird stick penis thing. But yeah, now, they're big together. They're real bongus. Also, yeah, sorry, I just saw this in chat. Yeah, a lot of people were concerned over Sue ships, that they would fail to translate. No. The TCG did it correctly, and they translated the whole fucking thing for Sue ship, which I love.
That's the bit.
I know, but like they did not ruin the bit, even though they could have. But they managed to unfuck it. So I assume that means that they learned from their lesson. But yeah, he's a big boy.
I still love some of the sous chef traps are literally just the chef special.
Oh, but, right. We were going to do Charmers originally. Sorry. We're going fast and loose here. It is early in the month. There's still like 5 days left. We'll do it early next time. We've got some other plans to pull up some stuff because we want to do it faster. Charmers would take a while. You'll notice that Loth is not here, and he was the one who decided to pick Charmers despite. So we're audibling it a little. We're trying to get done faster for other stuff, and we don't have a lot of people here, so we will push Charmers to a different time. I wasn't explicit about that online, but...
This thing legit is just all the weapons put together.
Yeah, he's all their bits stacked together.
Actually, it's all the bits attached to Eclipse.
No, because it's like, it's got the head
just the base of the head. No, it is all of them. It just...
Yeah.
It's more just...
I think it's because Eclipse is the biggest boy that, like, he kind of forms the center of the torso, but the bottom half of the torso is, like, Blue Sky and Green Horizon put together and shit like that. There's a lot of these little bobs.
I just don't think about the scale of it, but yeah.
And again, this is what I said. Mekk-Knights have a weird scaling issue. I assume Spectrum Supreme is very large, but then, you know, how does the head work out in this?
Mm-hmm.
I also do like, though, that they've kind of pinned the two cloaks together.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Spectrum Supreme mode is basically when they get all their shit together for reasons we'll discuss in a sec. But basically, when the Mekk-Knights are pressured, when they're back into a wall, they can juice the fuck up and become their fusion mode, which is this guy, which is their Link, which makes sense. Though, funnily enough, it is only a Link 3, and it only requires 2+ Mekk-Knight monsters. So, you don't actually need to use all 7 Mekk-Knights to make him. It's very funny. But Spectrum Supreme is a Link 3. It is a Cyburst, again, kind of calling back to how we kind of transition attributes. Orym is the same way. Remember, he's a Psychic as a normal monster in World Chalice, but becomes a Cyburst as a Link monster, if I remember correctly. It's got all the bottom-facing arrows you want. Not that that really matters to Mekk-Knights, other than, I guess, if you're doing other Link extension. It's got 3k attack. Its mats are, as I said before, 2+ Mekk-Knight monsters. If it's the only card in a column, this can attack directly. If it's in your extra monster zone and it points to no monsters, it can't be destroyed by card effects. It can't be targeted by card effects. You can send one other card you control in this card's column to the graveyard, especially summon a Mekk-Knight from your deck in defense position. You can use each effect, or use this effect of Spectrum Supreme once per turn. By the way, this has a very interesting name in Japanese. It is Seikon no Jacknightsu, Jacknights of the Star Scars. Spectrum Supreme is a little spicier, but keeps the alliteration. So yeah, I should double check when the Trickstar boss monster came out, especially because Trickstars are actually splashed in Mekk-Knights as a Link engine. Because their Link 4 is very similar, but unfortunately, their Link 4 has that effect text while it has a forward-facing arrow, so actually getting your Bella Madonna to point to no monsters is hard because you have to make it and then link away your other Link to have it be in your main monster zone, so it's weird. But yeah, Spectrum Supreme, while not a full towers, is pretty towersy. It makes a big guy. If it's the only one in your column, you can attack directly.
You know, it just hit me.
Yeah.
Are you supposed to, for like Link Material and the Trickstar thing, are you supposed to like fusion summon it away so you can put it in a different zone that's not an extra monster zone?
Possibly. The fusions were never super popular though, but that may have been what was intended in the anime.
Because I don't actually know. I'm not sure what else you do with the Link Material because you can't link it to a zone that's not. You can't link it away because it'd be pointing towards the thing. So
yeah, I honestly I think it really just is that they were like, oh, fuck, it's a Link 4. We have to give it arrows. What do we do? Well, it's a towers, so we'll give it a forward-facing arrow, and then it creates the world's most outable boss. But we're not here for that one yet. We'll talk about Trickstar at a later date, because I have things to say as a man who's tried to make that work. That was my last win in our prog series before scheduling ate everything. But yeah, Spectrum Supreme, a fairly solid boss monster. I think the main thing is that while its Link Material requirements are not super harsh, It is the only Mekk-Knight link for quite a while. Well, obviously, Morningstar, which we're going to talk about next, was planned. Morningstar did not come out for like 6 more months. Well, 5. But basically, in the TCG, so this is where I get the exact dates. In the TCG, Spectrum Supreme came out in Extreme Force in February 1st of 2018. Morningstar didn't come out until Cybernetic Horizon, which was July 26th. So, yes, almost the full 6 months apart. That's at least 1 set release. I think it's actually like 2 set releases. So, you were waiting a while before you could make this guy with anything less than 3 Mekk-Knights. You know? So, interesting. Interesting thing to note here. I'm pretty sure you still can go into Spectrum Supreme pretty fairly goodly in these decks. But it's got some spice. All right, I can close that tab on that guy, and then I've already got Morningstar open because I was looking out when it came up. So let's pull up Morningstar's card art. And I can't remember if you said that part on the stream or not because it has been probably like 30 minutes.
Oh, what exactly?
It's been like an hour actually. Morningstar is kind of a flashback.
Oh yeah, it is specifically. It is a flashback to the beginning, the end of days.
Yeah, this is the kind of like first version, you know, the original one that Lee built. You'll notice once again, this is where I talk about the scaling. You'll notice that this art seems to imply that Morningstar is very large because there are buildings in the background for scale. You keep that in your mind when we talk about other things later.
I've just noticed that they literally do have like reverse angle knees to like compensate for it being able to bend, but also like stand straight.
Yeah, he's got a very sturdy structure, which is good because he's very tall. It's a much more simplistic design.
Outside of its plating, it's actually a very light design relatively.
Well, yeah, that's what I was going to say. It's very streamlined. It's also interesting, by the way, this has a different style of name, so it is still written to be pronounced as Jack-Knights, but its name is technically Myojo no Kikai Kishi, which is Machine Knight of the Morning Star, which then would translate into Jack Knight of the Morning Star. But that sounds phonetically like the phrase, basically, Kikai, which means machinery, is a homophone of Kikai, which means machine world. So, you know, this is the dawn of the machines kind of thing. Fucking Skynet and this boy's also a machine. But yeah, it's a more streamlined design.
I think it's Kiter, which is a pseudo kind of older Toku thing about a android person who obtained ascended consciousness.
Kind of makes sense because they become psychics later. By the way, very pinchable waist alert. But what I was going to say is Morningstar is, obviously it's hard to draw that way, but Morningstar I believe is meant to be white. So Spectrum Supreme is an actual rainbow. Morningstar is white.
I took it as chrome.
I mean, yeah, but chrome's not a color. When you combine all 7 colors of light, you get white light. This does also probably mean, by the way, there's room for another Mekk-Knight link. That could be black, the absence of all. We absorb all colors. Think about it, Konami.
Oh my god, that could be like the Gearsu Mekk-Knight.
Yeah, there's a couple. I mean, obviously, Gearsu himself is mostly black, but I don't. We'll find out later when we actually do that one, like I said, because he's also an Orcust, and I think he is more important to Orcust as an archetype than Mekk-Knights.
I know, like, technically they made the Orcust Mekk-Knight where that's more person size, but
yeah.
And
that's
his redemption. But
Gearsu's color scheme is mostly black, but I don't think he has a color pun in his name. We'll find out later. But you know, Morningstar is here. They're a Link 2. Bottom 2 arrows, 2k attack, 2 monsters, including a Mekk-Knight. If this card is Link summoned, discard a Mekk-Knight monster or a World Legacy card. Add a World Legacy card from your deck to your hand. You can only use this effect of Morningstar once per turn. If your Mekk-Knight battles a monster in a different column than it, your monster can't be destroyed by battle, and you take no battle damage. So Morningstar is a good support piece to the deck. It actually gives you a way to make Spectrum Supreme in only 2 monsters. You literally just need Morningstar and then one other Mekk-Knight, because he's 2+, remember. It actually has a decent protection effect for a Link 2. Basically, if you're not lined up on your columns, it means that your monsters are protected, which, especially given their fat booties, means that, you've got some decent protection, but also you take no battle damage, so you can put them in attack mode for some ungodly reason. The main thing, though, is it gets to search World Legacy cards, which can get you your field spell and a lot of other bullshit we'll be talking about. But yeah, Morningstar, cool boy. Okay, well, let's actually talk about the last monster before I start going through spell traps, but... and as I said, there are technically 2 Mekk-Knight monsters we are not talking about, because they are also literally part of other archetypes, which is, there is Crusadia Avermax, who is Mekk-Knight Crusadia Avermax, and Girsu the Orcust Mekk-Knight, which is also Orcust. We will talk about them and their archetypes because that makes a lot more sense, both thematically and aesthetically.
And their effects usually resonate more anyway there.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they play... Obviously, Mekk-Knights, as we've discussed, eminently splashable, but I think Avermax is very much the end state of the Crusadia, line.
I think that's him before he goes to go fight the World Gears. So.
Yes, that's all of the... Avram is stacked with all of the Crusadia juice, all of the Orcus juice. We basically, get all our Mekk-Knight powers back because we finally defeat all the nightmares, and it's like, all right, definitely doing the last final battle. Chat will get to see a lot of Orum's transformations, but here is... Oh, and let me resize it a little. World Shield, because World Shield is the one that goes with the Mekk-Knights.
And now it feels like Orange, since it's the one that watches over the shields, considering it looks like it's mostly his shits.
Yeah, it does kind of look up. Though there's also I think there's some, interesting audio technology there.
Yeah.
But it's in the ruin of all the things. Also, it's, again, World Shield, definitely really fucking huge. So World Shield is a dark machine. Level 6, 0 attack, 3k defense. In Japanese, it's Star Shield. Star Relic, Star Shield. World Shield is unaffected by activated effects of monsters special summoned from the extra deck. Your opponent cannot target World Legacy cards in this card's column with card effects, and also they can't be destroyed by your opponent's card effects. During the standby phase, not your standby phase, the standby phase, if this card's in your graveyard, you can pay 1,000 LP special summon this card. Then your opponent can special summon one monster from their hand or graveyard. It's this effective World Shield once per turn. So World Shield is very clearly the one that the Mekk-Knight boys are guarding. But as I said, it's got a little bit of the synergy, but not the bestest. So yeah, it's, just one of the ones they're guarding. Technically, they're guarding 2. I don't know if I would call Ibli primarily black in color. We'll see that when we get to Nightmares.
Probably should start Ibli, honestly.
Well, she's the main deck one, yes. But like I said, we're gonna show a couple of card arts first, because you guys gotta understand what's the haps. So first of all, a card you may never have heard of. World Legacy Trap Globe. So basically, when they go to fight the crawlers and defeat all of them, the Mekk-Knights show up and steal Ib.
Because she has
put in the ball. Yeah. And the reason why you've never seen this card is because it's not good. Though the name is much punnier in Japanese. Trap Crawling on Star Relics. This is a normal trap that says, shuffle into your deck 5 of your World Legacy cards with different names that are banished in your hand or graveyard and or face up on the field except Trap Globe, then draw 2. Literally just play Jar of Avarice. I know that doesn't recover your banished, but, fucking, this is crazy. You have to have 5 separate names and draw 2. And set it as a normal trap. Not worth it. Very funny, but not worth it. But yes.
It feels like they were going for a bit, but it didn't pull off.
I mean, I think it makes sense because, right, the idea is this is Ib getting stolen away by the Mekk-Knights and stuff. It's your World Legacy quest has there's another chapter in your quest you weren't thinking about, kind of a thing.
Yeah, so basically you send all of the original like chalice names back.
So this is Scars. This is I used to the thumbnail. Now you'll notice the World Lance is also in this shot, but we're not talking about that one yet because World Lance is also better for nightmares. But Scars is the Mekk-Knight field spell, and again, look at the scale. Look how huge these World Legacy items are. Big shit. And there's obviously, Ning and Avram, or Orem still technically, but looking at this ruined, cityscape. There are birds. It's pretty cool. It was a good thumbnail. But World Legacy Scars is, again, very funny. All Mekk-Knights gain 300 attack and defense. This is actually kind of important to them. Once per turn, you can discard a Mekk-Knight or a World Legacy card, draw a card. So if you are somehow bricking on your Mekk-Knights or your World Legacy shit, rotate it around. Secondary effect, you can banish 8 Mekk-Knight monsters with different names from your graveyard or face-up field. Send your opponent's entire hand and extra deck to the graveyard. This almost never happens because that would mean you have to have literally every single Mekk-Knight out. But it's very funny.
I think it's...
You do the full hand rip and extra deck rip. Fuck you, you lose.
Hopefully.
I mean, yeah, I assume that's what they're modeling, is basically the idea that, like, again, we've talked about this. The Mekk-Knights get turned into the nightmares, so that's probably what the Scars are supposed to represent, is, hey, guess what? Secret plan, nightmares are out, you lose. Oops.
I was also thinking of, or all the Mekk-Knights show up, and because of that, you've lost, so it's like, what do we do now?
And so,
I just like the artist being like, this is Girsu and Aram, like...
Yeah, looking at the enemy base.
Yeah,
Speaking of the enemy base, here's what's happening right now. Ib has key, they take key. This is World Legacy key, by the way.
Okay, I think they can Shice Change. I think that's what it is.
Yes, I assume that's got to be what we're implying. But this is what I meant by saying, like, in some card art, Mekk-Knights look like they are sized like normal people. But others, like Morningstar and Spectrum Supreme, imply they are very large. But this is World Legacy Key. As you can see, Blue Sky, Red Moon, and Green Horizon. You can see one end of his stick thing, so I think he's supposed to have, like, a weird staff. But it's hard to tell.
I think it's always meant to be, like, a staff green, usually, so it's like...
Yeah, I thought it was a bow because of how that has, like, that little, like, triangular bit. But I think that is just how the connection works for their jack plug hands. That's just so they can have enough space. Anyway, they've kidnapped the Ib. And are, busy being like, what the fuck you doing? This is World Legacy Key. It's a continuous spell. When this card is activated, target a banished Mekk-Knight monster or World Legacy card, add it to your hand, negate your opponent's trap effects that are in the same column as your Mekk-Knight card. So giving you more funny column play, but also letting you get your Mekk-Knights back. But getting your keys out. Never lose your keys again. And then we get World Legacy Whispers, which is basically, as you can see from this card art, Orem Imduk and Ning Girsu go to the World Shield site and decide to have a tussle. This is canonically when the Mekk-Knights get really mad and turn into Spectrum Supreme. And then Ning Girsu does a dumb, and he tells Lee to go find his sister.
And then it turns out the projectors that are actually her form shift gradients.
Yes, while we're all looking away fighting the boss, Lee has decided to remind everybody she's evil.
I still don't ever like the bit of, like, Lee can just possess Ib, whatever, but I guess, especially basically just a data construct.
Yeah, we'll see if we go through the card arts.
I don't understand how
definitely the implication is she doesn't...
magic. She's just super
I mean, she might be magical. She, harnessed the power of creation and destruction in these giant robots, who, again, I remember you are psychic types, so there's definitely some weirdness going on. But I will say, there is something we definitely know for sure, which is that regular Lee does not have a body anymore. Her physical body is super gone, so...
They're projector nodes.
Well, yeah, that's what I mean. Like, however her mind became a data fairy, she doesn't have a normal body anymore, So I assume that's got something to do with her stuff going on. Anyway, World Legacy Whispers is a continuous trap card. When it's activated, target a level 5 or higher monster gains 1,000 until the end of the turn. Negate any spell effects in the same column as your Mekk-Knights. So it's a battle trick and also a spell negate. Mekk-Knights, funnily enough, have a lot of negates in their back row. I think also the card art here will help imply this. So this, in the next bit of our plot here, is World Legacy's Secret. This is when Lee goes full evil. And she has the Chalice. So I'm going to guess that World Legacy relic has part to do with how she takes over Ib's body. But yes, this is moments captured before disaster, top 10 anime betrayals, etc., etc.
Actually, now that I think about it, I think it's because Ib has the Chalice gear on her, and it might be like connected to like her innards, in a way. It might be
Well,
like,
yeah, she's literally got power from the Chalice, and Lee has the Chalice.
It might have
funny.
done like a psychic uplink to her brain, so maybe that's why she's doing it. She just follows that path route.
World Legacy Secrets in Japanese is True Depth Sleeping in the Star Relic. Really, really extra. But World Legacy Secret is basically another... It's another Mekk-Knight card in a reality. When it's activated, you can target a level 5 or higher special summon in your graveyard, special summon it. So it's Called by the Haunted just for level 5 or higher, but also very good for both Mekk-Knights and World Legacy cards. When this card leaves the field, destroy that monster. Negate any opponent's monster effect that activates in the same column as your Mekk-Knights. So this completes your negate trinity and gives you a called by effect. And then we get our first actual nightmare situation. Because, hold on, once again, sorry, I have extra tabs. Give me a second to compress this down, chat.
And now I'm just thinking about like the Chalice. It was not even anything special. It was just secretly like Lee's like brain server.
Yeah, I don't know if we ever actually... The implication is certainly that they do stuff. Like World Wand later is like a thing that has a lot of power in it, for instance, and obviously the World Key does something, but I don't know what the other World Legacies are supposed to do. Anyway,
it feels like a thing if they made an anime of it.
Nightmare Corruptor Ibli. And so somebody in chat said that Ibli is predominantly black. No, her color scheme is mostly purple. She does have some darker black colors, but I think it's mostly on the purple scale.
It's like midnight purple.
Yeah, it's a very dark purple, but I don't think it's explicitly like in the same way that the normal Mekk-Knights have their lines drawn. I think there's room for a Mekk-Knight that has, like, you know, Mekk-Knight of the Blackest Void or something. As always, you know, on Failed Portrayal, we like to pitch how Konami could continue to give archetypes legacy support. Mekk-Knights feel pretty locked in with, you know, having 7 colors and 2 extra deck guys who are different frames of all the colors together, so it's a little hard, but there's some wiggle room.
I feel like you can make Mekk-Knight Engineer Lee.
Yeah, I think... Did I say that joke last stream? I definitely have been thinking to myself of, like...
Not the name, but, like, the concept.
Yeah, the concept specifically. Oh, by the way, also, this is a good point. So this card is called Nightmare Corruptor Ibli. In the OCG, nightmares are called Troymares. Troymera.
As in Trojans?
Yes, obviously as a portmanteau of Troy, as in Trojan horse, and nightmare. Also, some people say that it's supposed to have a transliteration also of the phrase tromere, which is the name for a Schumann movement, which means dreaming. And again, nightmare, like sleeping, could work like that. In Chinese, the name is literally translates as nightmare song. So the nightmares are called nightmares, as in K-Nightmare, one, because that's a unique word, but also because that relates to the Mekk-Knights who are made of them, in case you missed that out before. The nightmares are all fiends, and they're all Link monsters except for the main deck ones.
I just think about the thing of, I've noticed that the slight, like, marks on her eyes, and then the thing around her thigh, and then around her head are all, like, things Lee had. So it's just, like...
Yeah, it's she's got parts of Ib's outfit, but then also like Lee has immediately started like adding her own accessories.
To me, it's Ib's body, but Lee is painted
Yeah,
over
Lee's in the
whole
pilot, yeah,
thing.
obviously. So the funny thing
I
about
felt-
this card, so I should say this. Remember how I talked about illusory world in the description of Avram? In Japanese, literally her name is illusionary collapsing world Eve Lees. Because remember, Lees was pluralized and Ib is Eve. Ibli sounds a lot better. It looks a lot
Evil.
better.
Okay, yeah.
But how her name is actually pronounced out loud is written in Romanji as Destroymeru. Destroymare Evelies, which is also very silly. So Nightmare Corruptor Ibli flows a lot better because I think there's no other Destroymare. And you may think, wait, aren't there other main deck Nightmares? Yes, they have different puns, I believe. But yeah, so this is Ib.
You finish.
Ib's body got took over by Lee.
I was thinking about, like, man, this must have sucked for, like, Ib, but I feel like she's probably not existing anymore. She's probably slowly being erased or something.
Well, we know she's alive in there because she will show that card art. Her ghost hands take the sword, so she does the classic anime thing of fighting from the inside. Also, actually, this is I just realized this art's zoomed in. This is not going to work. I was looking at the full art. Here we go. This is the full card art. Hold on. I didn't realize it was so punched in. That's probably why it's a little blurry. Here we go. Hey, it's those gems. Or 6 of them, anyway. Also, you can see she has a really long coat now. But yeah, there's also this weird music theme that suddenly gets added. That will be important later. Keep note of that, chat. But yeah, so...
she's got the idol thing, yeah.
But also, it's like, yeah, it's like music bars. But yeah, so she's got 3 out of the... Or not 3, 6. Multiple of 3. 6 out of the 7 crystals. You'll notice one of them's not here. It's the blue sky one. But yeah, all the rest of them got gooped out.
I'm just thinking of the thing of... God, every time I see Iblis sometimes, I just think about Red's whole thing about when you have a member of the heroes be mind controlled and how it usually never ends up being good for the show writing-wise in the long term.
It's a monkey's type race situation.
I just think about that, and it just feel like every
world.
time it's just like, man.
Well, I mean, don't take it at its word. You know, you gotta look at things. This one, I think. I mean, it's to build a reason for the time skip tension, but
yeah,
it is very dramatic, and technically, it all works out in the end, despite what you think.
It is entirely an arc of fridging, oddly enough.
I don't actually know if this is a fridging per se.
You have the only other female character ends up being evil, that then possesses the other female character. Then they merge into become one, so now only one female character, and it's now just the only evil character. Entirely.
I mean, that has nothing to do with fridging. That's the Spreffet principle of collapsing down, limited numbers of female characters. And also, fun fact, there are later female characters. You could argue, one, we talked about how, what's his face? Yellow Star has a very feminine silhouette. And Mermaid is definitely a lady. Obviously, they're, mechanical monstrosities from beyond time and space, but we're not necessarily leaving out feminine designs. But I don't know if this counts as a classical fridging because her death is not suddenly done to inflict man pain. Yes, it does actually serve to give Longirsu man pain as part of his
it's mostly family
antagonist
pain, honestly.
origin.
It's more,
yeah, I don't actually know if the story at any point ever implies that.
Longirsu honestly doesn't have to be a dude to have that intuition. He could have been a
yeah,
lady
it could have been
her.
It could have been her big sister. It doesn't really matter.
Because
I don't think the story ever
just
implies.
older family.
I don't think the story ever implies that Orim and Ib are supposed to have anything going on. Obviously, he does end up passing the key back to her in the end when she becomes Lib.
I think he's just the girl he grew up with. So
but yeah, they're just childhood friends. They're just hanging out. And what I was gonna say was that technically, the act of her dying is supposed to be Ib's act of, selfless sacrifice because she's called Eve, and there's a lot of weird Jesus allegories in here. There's a lot of classic Christian complex shit. But as I brought up earlier, we already know it all works out because we already showed Justicar Ib and stuff. Like, technically, she gets to come back scot-free, and it once again mostly just works out poorly for poor Ning, who became Longirsu and fucking built a terrible mecha lich army and had to fight his best friend to try and bring her back. And it turns out, I mean, he kind of had to do some of that stuff because Galatea is important, but, like, a lot of the science shit he tried to do to recreate Ib's body didn't actually matter. And once again, only furthered these plans.
I think it's fun that it's like he basically went kind of insane in his loneliness and his ability to now have ultimate power. He then made himself a daughter to replace his sister. Don't think about it too hard.
Well, he's doing science. It's a prototype. He's building towards, like, I'm going to create a perfect artificial body so that my sister has somewhere to come back to. And then, oops, nope, got the wrong one. I dialed the wrong ghost. I got Lee. Fuck.
I'm happy that he at least has it, like, at least in the, we're talking about the story and, like, out of order anyway. Yeah. I'm just happy in the end of it, it's just, like, he's just kind of got, like, a daughter now. He's just going to go protect the world as, like, the last Mekk-Knight.
Yeah, like I said, and this is why I say that I would not argue that Ib is technically the classical Phrygian, because it's not like she's never talked about again. She's not just milled out for emotional pain. The fact that she died and Longirsu thinks that Avram is responsible because he doesn't know the whole truth because he was 1v1ing or 1v6ing, I guess, technically, the Nightmares.
I think I thought he only killed one of them, but he did fight off the rest.
Yes, he did fight all of them. And technically it wasn't 1v1. I think Imduk was supposed to be with him. Maybe Imduk was with Avram. I'd have to replay this.
I just remember a bit of being like, I remember in the solo it says like without his powers left, he could still fight off one. He still killed the one that was left to fight.
Yeah, he defeated one of them, and obviously like we'll probably figure out exactly where because I gotta look over the card arts when we get there. We gotta talk about all the
I guess the way to say it is that Ib is very much the sacrificial heroine.
Yeah. The TV trope name for that is either, I would argue this is a case of sacrificial lion because Ib is supposed to be powerful in her own right. She is not necessarily offensively, but is literally described as having like magical barriers, and she fights alongside her friends. Yeah, they don't really show it in the card art.
That's the one thing about it is I feel like they just never showed her doing anything.
Yeah, and I will say I think some of that has to do with I don't know whether like how much they scripted it out. There aren't a lot of cards between the World Chalice and the Crawlers that actually show a lot of that conflict going on.
I will say
I'll scroll up in the Master Guide
because like most of the things that I will say up until the point Avram and Girsu never got to do much either. It's just only by the time this happens is when they actually do most of their things because like Girsu gets to show besides being like the strongest beforehand, he fought off most of the Nightmares with Imduk's help.
I mean, to
like not die. But Avram was mostly busy dealing with this and Blue Sky.
Yeah, the two card arts we see about... no, they're both... Okay, so they're all right. Here, for example, I'll pull this up alongside. This is World... Let me see, this is on... I'll just delete it after. This is World Legacy Pawns. So this is Ning and Ib standing, literally back-to-back fighting all the Crawlers. You can see her barrier there and stuff, but you can also see the Mekk-Knights on the horizon coming to ruin your day. So, like, there is a little bit of emphasis. The counterpoint to this is World Legacy Clash, which looks like this. That's Imduk and Avram and Lee. Only at one projector of shadiness. She's not at full shadiness yet. She's only a little shady. But that's all of them fighting the
I find it's fun that it's like the more
once.
as it goes, you notice that it's like the tip of her wings are actually they're projectors. It's fun. Like eventually they start hinting at it as it goes.
Yeah.
It's fun.
Now, a lot of you have probably seen the card Ibli because it's a motherfucker of a card. She's a link
designed
for a purpose. Yeah. So this Ibli is a Dark Cyberse level 2/0/0. When this card is normal summon, target a Link monster in your graveyard, special summon it to a field, so it points to this card, but changes its attack to 0 and negate its effect. So if you already have Link monsters in your grave, Ibli lets you normal summon her to get them back and start your Link climbing again.
Honestly, weirdly, that effect honestly made me think of the image of... Listen when I say that. Weirdly, play along with us when I say this. It goes on your side of the field because
I mean,
it's the idea is like it disables the Mekk-Knights, and then it's on your field, which means you don't want to kill her because she's Ib.
Kind of, but no. I think mostly it's just. I think some of that is supposed to be kind of implied, but there's a little bit to it because it actually flows together. Because let me read her second effect, the effect most people know. If this card in its owner's control is sent to the graveyard, special summon this card to your opponent's field in defense position. You cannot special summon monsters except Link monsters, and you can also only use her special summon to your opponent's field once per turn. By the way, if you can get extra normals, not that I think they're common, but if you can activate her normal summon effect multiple times per turn, which is very funny. But yeah, so basically the idea mechanically is what you do is you normal summon Ibly, you summon back a Link, you Link climb, Ibly is sent to graveyard for Link material, you special summon it to your opponent's field, your opponent is now Link locked. Which obviously, in plenty of decks, has made her a choice side deck card for virtue of the fact that some decks don't play Link monsters. When she came out originally in, mid-2018 in Flames of Destruction, I don't think it was as big of a deal. Obviously, Link summoning was still very important because we were still in MR4. But once we left MR4 and you could play other extra deck types without Link summoning, there are extra decks that don't have Links in them. Hey, that means you can completely lock your opponent out of the extra deck if they're not careful and they get Ib locked, or if they did their whole Link combo and then went into something else. So yeah, there's definitely some interesting mechanics there. But basically, this is Corruptor Ibly. Lee took over Ib's body, and she sucks out all the gems from the Mekk-Knights. Technically, I believe in some of the card art she's shown sucking out Blue Sky's gem, but again, she doesn't get to control that one. But we'll see that when we go through the card art at the end. Because we're going to go through some cards. Some of these cards you're either going to be very familiar with, or will have never seen because they're fucking banned.
I feel like if people kept their finger on the pulse of things, they at least remember that Mermaid and Goblin exist.
Yeah, you may have heard, but they are the bands. So we're going to start at the smallest. They're Link 1. Mekk-Knight. And honestly, it took a while for Mermaid to get banned. I think it wasn't until Orchestrated Nightmare. Because while you can make her with Ibly on your turn, that is not a good use of Mermaid. But art-wise, this is Mermaid. Mermaid is based off of Indigo Eclipse. You can tell it's kind of got a similar ring thing going on, but also we've made a lot of, like, junk into our ring. We've got kind of a translucent thing going on. Also, though, her little tail ring is much like Indigo Eclipse. And she's got kind of the same head horns, but a lot of it is very different. Very
it's a mix of, like,
spiky and bleedy.
It's like they're mix of made of like it's a pile. It's like the corpse of the Mekk-Knight mixed with a bunch of all the rubble of the city.
Yeah, we've like comboed rubble and the bits of the Mekk-Knight, and then I assume that the like
they're mostly projected energy.
Yeah, the translucent energy parts are just the power of the gem. But yeah, there's not a lot to say about this one specifically. Like art-wise, yep, it's a mermaid. It's
kind of like
got some interesting things.
Lifeless quality to them. I've just noticed that there's like actually like energy hair to this thing. Like it has like its eyes covered.
Like hair. I don't know if she's supposed to have eyes. We'll see through the others about their.
No, it's more like because like they're covered eyes kind of thing.
Yeah. Mekk-Knight, by the way, all the 6 nightmares, again, because Sky is not controlled, are all different attributes. Because Konami likes to do one of every attribute and then stop for some ungodly reason. Why? Why have you done this, Konami?
They don't make divine cards.
Well, yeah, that's... there's 4 of those. I mean, you could... Well, you really can't, because it would... It's one of those things where, like, I wish Konami would add more more types more frequently. Obviously, Illusionist seems to be going some places. They're adding some extra guys. You know, they're coming up with a couple different lines, so we can hope
They're
for
having
some
the thing of
serious
the
support.
Illusionist cards because they're not real. They can't be.
Well, yeah,
destroyed by
they've got a consistent effect. Cards that battle with them can't be destroyed. It's very interesting.
like how most psychics are about your life points.
Yeah, they've got a sub theme already, which I appreciate. But
And they're like the psychics here aren't about life points, but that they're archetypes, so it's a bit different.
anyway, nothing is strictly speaking stopping Konami from just making new attributes. The problem would be that all of the attributes that would make sense would call into question literally every card printed ever in Yu-Gi-Oh! Like, if you added lightning as an attribute or ice as an attribute, which would be very, obvious, you'd be like, wait, what about all those ice barriers who are water? Wait, what about all those thunder
metal?
Cards?
Yeah,
Yeah, and then you'd have the problem of, hey,
the majority of machine cards.
yeah,
It's like-
all these earth machines, why are they earth?
I will say though, this is a.
Why
this
aren't
is a
all
good
plants
way-
wood,
Honestly, if they did that, maybe that'd be a good way to how do I put this? I guess republish the game in a new way.
Yeah, it could be. Let me see. There are a few other, I think there are weird ones that show up. There was a joke for laugh attribute. Sevens has a one-off of, dragon, press, photo, money, fight, love. Like, so there's some puns they've done.
They like doing some bits like that. Yeah.
But yeah, I kind of wish that they could more. But at the very least, I will say the animes do usually stick to the same classic, 7 technically, and even then, I don't like. Okay, yeah, it's interesting. Some side cards used some different stuff, but they didn't actually do them. It's very interesting. The Sacred Beasts were divine in Yu-Gi-Oh! GX, and the Aesir were divine in 5D's anime, and they decided to not do that, probably for the sake of not breaking anybody's brains. But it's
I think it'd be cool if they were, because it would have given them something a little special to them.
Yeah. The Wicked cards from the R manga are also divine originally. They should be. But yeah, Konami likes to play it close to the vest. Not entirely, because the alternate versions of Ra, for instance, are divine also still. So they've kept some of it, but there's some flexibility there. Anyway,
it's the thing of
we've gotten a little away from Mermaid.
Darlings don't need to live sometime.
Axe, the phrase you're looking for is explicitly kill your darlings. Just say the phrase, don't say it weird. Anyway, Troymare Mermaid, aka Nightmare Mermaid for most of you, is a Water Fiend Link 1, 1000 attack, 1 Nightmare monster, except Mermaid. If this card is Link summoned, you can... Link summoned, you can discard 1 card. Those are where the C sounds are. Special summon a Nightmare from your deck. If this card was co-linked when this effect is activated, you can draw a card. You can only use this effect of Nightmare Mermaid once per turn. All monsters on the field lose 1000 attack and defense unless they are co-linked. So again, Mermaid was not a problem card until Orchestrated Nightmare was printed, I'm pretty sure. Because you didn't have anything worth summoning off it other than you just got to get a head start on your Lee combo. And even then, there are way better 2-card instant link 2s you can make. You don't even have to go into Nightmare Mermaid, right?
Yeah.
That said, you can see what it was for. It was a way to fetch Ibli, and it had an attack modulation effect. And all the Nightmares have a lot of, if this card is link summoned, discard, do X. If this card is co-linked, do another X. Usually draw a card to replace its cost. So it becomes a, +0. But yeah, Mermaid wasn't a problem right away. Unlike other people we're going to mention. But instantly became a problem the moment they printed 1 more additional Nightmare main deck monster, so you had a target. But...
as you do.
As it happens sometimes. Did I accidentally... Yeah, hold on, let me... Sorry, I think I closed too many tabs. I got away from my lists of nightmares. so we will then grab our next one. Yeah, I have this in semi-alphabetical order. Okay, so... Chat, you really don't want to see my tab situation right now.
I don't think I want to see my tab situation.
Okay, where's my... Alright. Okay, now it's the orange one. This is very big. Hold on. I realized how big this dog was. It's Nightmare Cerberus. Technically Kerberos, but... Actually, this is another good question. Because the OCG also flops on this. Let me see what the original... Yes, it is in fact written Kerberos, so you should say it... I mean, MBT won't change because he deliberately mispronounces cards for no fucking reason.
Because he's a white boy.
Okay, Axe. Wow, way to be racist.
That's just bit, though.
That has nothing to do with why he mispronounces things, though. I don't know why we have to make it racially motivated. I think it's because he accidentally...
I thought that's what it was, though, when he said that.
I'm pretty sure it's just because he mispronounced, well, like, one thing once and people made a big deal, like Hane Hane. But no, there's no point in getting mad at MBT for saying just to CR, even though that's literally never been how anyone has ever pronounced that word. It's definitely a hard C.
He's fucked up how I've said recital.
You mean Recital Starling?
Yeah.
What's the one that always gets me? Oh, it's Stratos, which should be Stratos. Some people blur those ones anyway, as in Stratosphere. Or Stratosphere. But if he's ever said Cerberus, he's technically wrong, and he's not even trying. It is canonically Kerberos. But Nightmare Kerberos is based on Orange. Orange Sunset. Unlike Mermaid, this one doesn't seem to have as many similarities thematically with Orange Sunset. I mean, it's got the gem in the center, but it's got, like, claws everywhere and, like, a spiky dog collar and a trash butt. There's no giant shields or anything here. I do like, though, that, like, you can see some very interesting shit. There's, like, an S here and some other stuff.
I just like this one. It's just
Yeah,
kind
it's
of fun.
Wow, I just realized my...
It's got like the weird
Sure,
S thing in the center, and that's like got the kind of like blind side of the other heads. You only notice the rubble thing in the back where it's just like, I guess, just there for the tail. It doesn't feel like it ever needed to have rubble bits to it, but it does.
Yeah, I mean, that's thematically what they are. And there's some, like, rubble and stuff connecting in there. Also, people saying, like, Aluber the Boober of Duber is... Aluber is actually pronounced Aluber. It's just the rest is because he's the something of Despia. That, I think we just wanted to say something silly, and it caught on, because actually saying Aluber's full title is a pain in the ass.
I mean, the Luber the Boober of Duber...
It rhymes,
sounds
so
fun.
it
it's
goes
just
easier,
fun
yeah.
sounding.
It's a lot easier to say, yes. Anyway, Kerberos. I agree. I like this one. Mostly because it is farther apart from the original Mekk-Knight. It's interesting and unique, and I like a lot of these little details, like how the two other heads kind of have their eyes colored. And then the third one doesn't even really have eyes. They're like part of his logo, but it's good. Like, it's a little creepy and weird, and I like it. I'm fairly certain most chat probably remembers what Kerberos does, but in case you don't, it is a Link 2. It has the forward and side pointing arrows. Technically left pointing, but straight left. Two monsters with different names. Again, very, very loose requirements. Though I do at least appreciate it's two monsters with different names. You can't machine dupe your way into a Kerberos play. If this card is Link summoned, discard a card, target a special summon monster in your opponent's main monster zone so it doesn't pop EMZs. Destroy it. If this card is co-linked, you can draw a card. You only use this effect of Cerberus once per turn. Co-linked monsters you control can't be destroyed by card effects. So again, the Nightmares really played up this co-linking effect. They get extra effects and protection if they're co-linked, and they can replace the card just so you go +0. And so, in general, you know, we're going to talk about Phoenix in a second and kind of like its interesting status of just popping any spell trap. Kerberos itself isn't really that bad. It only targets special summon monsters, only your opponent's MMZ, not their EMZ targets. Though, obviously, if you're playing a generic Link deck and you want to get rid of the EMZ, there's a lot of things like Mega Fleet and stuff you can deal with. But yeah, it's an interesting one. But actually, next, technically, we're going to talk about the other banned one. And it did take them... This card was around longer than people think, but this one was, I believe, decided it should go first because it was immediately a problem. Also, this is a fucked up little guy. This is Nightmare Goblin. I'm fairly certain I knew that his face was razor blades before. It doesn't stop it from being any less fucked up.
I didn't know his face was circular saws.
Yeah, no, he's got saw blades for a face for his nostrils, and he's got two giant screw eyes, which give him kind of like a weird googly eye effect. I kind of like it because it makes goblins seem like comical yet fucked up at the same time, so it becomes more fucked up.
Honestly, I'm just curious how he made like the woven hat. But like,
I mean, yeah, it's just like it's the same that his weird hammer and shield are made out of, so it's just kind of, I think, like strips of stuff stuck together.
Yeah, it's like...
And gives him a little goblin hat.
It's kind of charming where it's like, I just kind of image it's like his face and like his mouth and eyes to like float around and like...
He seems very gooey, yes.
No, it feels like he'd be floating around and like moving around up and down around like a screensaver.
Yeah, that's what I like. Very amorphous, very flexible. So, Goblin, I think, is kind of a middle ground between... Well, I mean, I guess Mermaid does look very different than Indigo Eclipse, but is also still very much Indigo Eclipse. Goblin is also still very much Green Horizon, but also is still very distinct, because, like, now he's got, instead of a staff thing, he's got, like, a big junk hammer axe, you know, and he's got the, like, bottom, you know, loop around. It's all very interesting and different. It's a shame that he has such an interesting card art. I also like the kind of, like, nature reclaiming effect he's got going on here, because this motherfucker is banned. And this one is very obvious. This is not dependent on another card. I'm pretty sure Nightmare Goblin was always going to prison after being printed with this effect. Goblin is the wind one, because he's green, obviously. Duh. He's got 1300 attack. His links are the left and right arrows. He has 1300 attack, 2 monsters with different names. So again, he is the completely generic version. If this card is link summoned during your turn, discard a card. If this card is co-linked, you can draw a card. Also, during your main phase, you can normal summon 1 monster from your hand to a zone this card points to. In addition to your normal summoner set, you can only play this effective Goblin once per turn. Your player can target co-linked monsters. So Goblin obviously requires setup because it's got left and right arrows. But if you can pull it off, if you can basically do 2 link summons, this gives you an extra normal. And then you can immediately go into link 3s. You can get extra normal effects like, you know, Iblian shit. Also, while it gives you targeting protection for your co-linked monsters, which is, again, very easy to set up because it's got the side arrows. But basically, any deck that could make a couple of link monsters could get an extra normal, and it's pretty busted. Just get out extra normals, you know, in your extra deck, which means, again, any 2 monsters can become goblins so long as you have a card left in your hand, you do the thing. It's very bad news bears. Very strong. Alright. Next is the fire one. This is the one that absolutely 100% anybody in this chat who has sniffed a game of Yu-Gi-Oh! Played after the year 2018, you know this card. You have seen this card. You have quite possibly made this card. It is Nightmare Phoenix. The Phoenix. The Phoenix. The spiky boy. Other than a little bit of his head thing going on, Phoenix is very different than Red Moon. but still pretty good.
I don't know how to put it, but I feel like it looks better and worse than when now it's blown up. I don't know how else to describe it.
Well, when you say worse, do you mean like you think the artistry is worse, or worse as in like this guy's more fucked up and weird?
It's more just the bits I just don't like as much.
That's fair. That's fair. Now, if you can see details you didn't like in the small now.
I don't really care for having like the junk wings. And
Yeah, the junk.
I
much
don't
like
like the way it's like actual bottom bird half looks really, because I thought it'd be better if it just had like a plumage, like a fiery plumage, instead of like having like bird legs.
Well, I mean, he needs legs.
Some phoenixes just have like a fire plume as like their base.
You mean exactly one specific phoenix you saw when you were like 12? Mostly they're birds that have legs, because birds have legs. And this one does as well. And I'll say this. I mean, you know, Mermaid had the fishtail. Kerberos had the 3 heads and the bits. It had a tail, even though it didn't need it because of the junk bit. Like, they're trying to actually draw, you know, guys who are reasonably like their mythological designs. I will agree with you. The interior junk layer, it feels forced. That is obviously part of the Nightmares aesthetic, but doesn't necessarily go well with what the stuff they're going on. But I do like the kind of weird plate masky bit, you know?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
The spikes on the tail are very Final Fantasy XIV.
I think that's cool. I'm just stuck on how the legs feel like. They feel like they were added a bit later. They just don't look like good.
I do think this artist has a issue with their layering. The lines of the legs are very clear, so that they are definitely like coming out on top. They're made of energy, I guess, but you are right that it sticks
just
out
feels like
a
they
little.
could have been like positioned differently, because they just look kind of.
I mean, this is, you know, it's an action
They just
shot.
don't look like they admit.
This is the action shot. I'm not a professional artist, so I will not talk about, you know, layering and projection and shit. Also, Mark said way earlier, it's a better Brilliant Fusion engine. Yes, basically. But Brilliant, you know, the Brilliant Fusion engine existed around this time period and then got banned, so people were probably like, what do we do next? Nightmare Goblin. He's just Brilliant Fusion. I mean, that is basically what he is. Though, interestingly enough, Nightmare Goblin still banned even in the OCG, while they allow you to play one Brilliant Fusion over there. Anyway, Phoenix is the fire one. It's the last Link 2. Phoenix really is kind of the all-star here, because out of all of them, it's got the most attack as well, 1900, which is pretty decent for a Link 2. 2 monsters with different names. The card's Link Summon. You can discard a card, target a spell trap your opponent controls, destroy it. If this card was co-linked, you can draw a card. Co-linked monsters can't be destroyed by battle. So this completes your towersing of the co-links. You can't be targeted, you can't be destroyed by card effects or destroyed by battle, and it lets you pop any spell trap your opponent controls. Probably could have just made this, you know, in their spell and trap zones. Like, you, it's interesting that Kerberos has both a bad stat line at only 1600 attack and also is limited to main monster zones and special summons. Phoenix just pops any old spell trap. But again, like I said, we brought this up earlier. All the floodgates you can play that are immune to Phoenix already existed well before Phoenix came out in 2018. Other than, I think, you know, Mystic Mind. But Mystic Mind is just immune to all monster effects that would get rid of it, not just Phoenix's. It's kind of why it's a banned card, because it's annoying. Actually, this reminds me of a story. I'm wondering if I want to tell it right now. Yeah, sure. We can kill a little bit of time this way. This is the thing I did want to bring up.
We kind of go with time.
We're at about 2 hours, but we only have 2 more Nightmares left. We're gonna mention Worldlance and then probably show Idli, because she's not really in any other archetype than Nightmare, so it's like our one good opportunity to mention her here. And a couple of other spell traps. But what I would bring up is, this is the thing I learned recently. So in official tournament policy in the OCG, there are no actual official rules about surrendering. Now, at tournaments, surrendering is considered a gentleman's agreement between players. This is why Victory Dragon is still banned in the OCG, because apparently it attracted a lot of minor infractions to get you DQ'd rather than lose the whole match to Victory Dragon. This is also why Mystic Mind has basically always been banned in the OCG, because It is a mutual agreement between players. This means if your opponent is playing a Mystic Mine stall, hypothetically, you can't just scoop and move on. I think this explains a lot about Master Duel's philosophy of surrendering and why it's like literally the worst outcome. They had to give you a button to just leave a match besides being disqualified. If something happens in real life that you have to leave your computing device. But it's kind of weird. I'm also very glad this is not how the TCG works, because basically, I'm imagining being held hostage by a solitaire player. Who's like, no fam, I've got 2 more moves in my combo even though I have game on board. So yeah. Very interesting to think about that when we're talking about mine. I have seen several sources say this is how it is, and I have seen no sources contradict this. So if you can find me the OCG document that talks about it. Personally, though, I think this is hilarious and very dumb because surrendering happens multiple times on camera in the anime and manga. And there's no rules about it. You just do it. There's a gesture and everything. You put your hand on your deck and scoop. So it's very weird and funny to me, but it explains a lot, I think. But, yeah, Phoenix pops spell traps. Let's talk about the other one you have seen. You know this one. Because this is the one that's actually easier to make. No offense to poor Griffin. But also, this is the one with the alternate art. That's pretty rad. It's Unicorn. Unicorn, again, kind of edging onto the in-between, because obviously its big halo is very much, you know, yellow stars like things, but now they're pointier. Nope, did not copy that correctly. Hold on. Give me paint. Somebody made this image way too fucking big, but we'll shrink her down. We'll keep shrinking it down. Okay. That got super blurry in the restretching. Weird.
It's just, it doesn't want to be down res, but it's like, it's a really nice alt art.
Yeah, it's a cool alt art. It looks a lot better in like normal spec, but again, unfortunately, you know, Wikipedia is still repairing their image database. Most of their textual stuff is updated, though. There are some like like for instance, last week when I was trying to look up Crawler Soma wasn't in their list because that's a newer card, so they hadn't repaired that part of the database.
This is a silly thing, but Lee gets to show how much of a girl boss she is.
Also, I think I was gonna say Ibli Horse Girl confirmed.
But like in like a bitchy way, honestly.
Well, yeah, she's very sassily writing this thing side saddle, but art-wise, I think Unicorn is cool. I like the effect they do with Yellow Star's, you know, Vector Trap Coffins thing. Like, they're pointier now, but also, like, it's just a good draw. You know, you've got the armored hooves, got a very long, floofy mane. There's not, like, there's a little bit of the junk stuff around the base of the tail, but it's not emphasized. It's kind of suppressed, so it works a lot better. Unicorn looks pretty cool. Big horn, you know. It apparently has teeth, which is a little weird. You can't see it a lot because it's blurry, but they're there. Also, yes, Ibli's music notes thing does just follow her around. That is her DBZ aura, is just the music, the sheet music effect, apparently. Unicorn is the dark one, oddly enough. I don't know why, because Griffin is much more purpley. I think Griffin is literally purple Nightfall, so I would have probably made Unicorn the light one and Griffin the dark one, but I don't work at Konami. Phoenix was fire, by the way, if we didn't get it out there. They're all fiends, but they're all different attributes, so Phoenix was fire. Kerberos was earth because dog, underworld, and Goblin was wind because green. But Unicorn is the dark one. Unicorn is our first, and I think our only, because isn't Griffin a Link 4?
Yes.
Yeah, so Unicorn is the Link 3. It has the bottom-facing arrow and the 2 left and right arrows. 2 plus monster with different names, so you can summon it with just 2 monsters. If this card is Link Summon, discard a card, target on the field, shuffle it into the deck. If this card is co-linked, draw a card. You can only use this effective Nightmare Unicorn once per turn. While any co-linked Nightmare monsters are on the field, for your normal draw phase each turn, draw 1 card for each different name among these co-linked monsters instead of drawing just 1 card. you never see that second effect. If you could actually play the Nightmare deck as intended, that would be fucking crazy. In your draw step, draw a card for each co-linked Nightmare. Nuts. Mostly you see Unicorn for the fact that its other effect is also fucking nuts. It spins. It spins back a card. It still targets, so targeting protected cards can't be unicorned away. But Unicorn is a universal removal of a non-destroyable card. And for that purpose, I will say I think Unicorn is actually a good card. I know it's generic, but it's a Link 3, so you need a couple of setup to get to it. It's not just any 2 monsters make it. It's 2+, so you need that. And I think having universal access to the spin back is pretty important. Obviously, Compulse and Phoenix Wing Wind Blast exist and let you do basically the same thing, but on a slower effect. Unicorn can let you get rid of problematic cards on your turn as a spin back, and it's very useful. So I think Nightmare Unicorn is a valid card. As I know, as annoying as some people probably are about seeing it and getting their shit spun back, well, didn't make a card that your opponent couldn't destroy, I guess. Honestly, I would like to see more easily accessible, non-destruction removal effects in your extra deck like this. Though, obviously, like I said, Nightmare Unicorn is not universally accessible. And, well, I mentioned him. Let's do the big boy. Griphon. Gryphone. Goodifon. We're gonna see if it's true, but I remember Griffin being pretty looking up close. Yeah, I'm kind of right.
I remember it kind of looking weird, like the vague pop-ups I've seen of him.
Yeah, he's a pretty weird boy. This one's Purple Nightfall, so he's got jack plugs for talents. He's got audio jacks.
It's
he's got
weird, but I think it works.
Halo.
It's being fucking weird.
Yeah, it's very weird, but it's not excessive. I like the little bits that are used to be Nightfall. Got the long tail. The random crap parts are only its weird headdress thing. It has no eyes. It's got a big moon.
How its legs match up to the rest of its frame just look weird to me.
Well, there's definitely these separations of the lines, right?
Yeah.
So they're supposed to be separate.
I think I'm maybe just being picky about it because it just clashes with the way my brain always recognized it from the smaller art.
I mean, you want to be able to tell where his legs are, I think, normally.
Yeah, I always thought his legs were a bit higher up in the back. I don't know.
But yeah, so Griphon is their Link 4. It is light. Again, I don't know why these two are the attributes they are. I think they should be swapped. It has, all 4 direction arrows because it's Link 4. It's got 2,500 attack, which is a little low for a Link 4. Usually your Link 4s are shit like Borals, which are 3K. Or Access Code Talker, which is almost always giant because you don't make Access Code Talker with 4 individual monsters. So, he's always pretty bonkless. But Griffin is 2+ monsters, different names. If this card is Link Summon, discard a card, target a spell trap in your graveyard, set it to your field, but it can't be activated this turn. Then if it was co-linked, you can draw a card. Special summon monsters can't activate their effect unless they're linked. So Griffin itself is a floodgate, and it lets you recover a spell trap, but you can't activate it this turn anyway. So I think in general, Griffin is just too slow. Its link arrows give you a lot of flexibility for linking and co-linking and shit, but the floodgatification, and again, it turns itself off basically because it's got a forward-facing arrow unless you go out of your way to build it in your main monster zone, which requires a little bit of setup because it requires 2+ monsters to Link 4. It's got that forward-facing arrow, so your opponent can always just go, cool. I play a card to the zone you're pointing to. I can activate this effect, die. It's still pretty bonkless, but it's definitely not as popular. I've seen it in a couple of decks, but usually very, very specific decks that can easily make Link 4s. Its effect is not the powerhouse of generic Link 4s. Again, Access Code is much more the generic Link 4 you play, because Access Code ends the fucking game, which Griffin does not. Honestly, most of the Borals end the fucking game, too. If you can make, a Boral Load, a Boral Sword, etc., even some of the other later Borals, if you can make a Boral Dragon in the clear, it's probably game over. Good night, Irene. All right, so we're going to talk about their associated world legacy, kind of. Again, both the shield and the lance are, at the same place, but Lance's effects make it pretty clear that it's probably supposed to synergize with Nightmares, because it involves link monsters. Though Mekk-Knights obviously have a link monster, so you can do both.
That
but
or
yeah.
Orcus, because that's part of their main combo.
I think it's part of their main combo just for synergy reasons. Orcus is actually tied to the World Lance. The fact that it does make World Legacy tokens that are Dark Machines benefits Orcus, but I don't think that's why for it was printed, But yeah, there's World Legacy, World Lance. Obviously, like I said, the what we call World Chalice's, Holy Grail or Star Grail in Japanese, Seihai. So like, there are some Christianization here. This is very clearly a Lance of Longinus from Evangelion. That's not what the actual Lance of Longinus would look like, but it is absolutely aping that design.
Honestly, I was kind of thinking of. It's because I just don't think of like the in the Alien, because I was thinking it has the audio jack ports at the sides, but I was also thinking of like the serpent kind of thing around it. It more makes me think of like a bident that has been coated in a snake's venom. Color-wise.
Yeah, color-wise, but the thing is, the Lance of Longinus in Ava is a bident, and it does have a double helix, so it's a Lance of Longinus from Ava.
Okay.
This is not a like. It's more detailed than that, but oh god, how huge is this fucking image? Well, we'll find out. Yeah, it's got the black background because it's transparent. But like, no, it's a Biden with a coiling effect. It's Ava. It doesn't have to be Ava, but it is. That's one of those things where like, I see exactly what you did there. Why did you do that? I don't know, but that's what they did. I do like again the scale though. Like being in the ocean and shit, and the watery effect. Though you could argue the submerged city is also very Ava. Because the ruins of Tokyo 3. It's also very funny to me that this is written Seiso. It's being Starlance, but also there's a pun there. And World Lance is a dark machine, like all the other World Legacy cards. It's a level 8. It's got 3k attack, 0 defense, so it's the offense to go with the shields, defense. Monsters your opponent controls can't attack World Legacy monsters, except this one. You only use each of the following effects once per turn. During damage calc, if a Link monster battles a monster, you can discard this card. The opponent's battling monster loses 3k attack. So this also works if your opponent is playing Links, but obviously, like, benefits Nightmares, who are generally lower attack stats. If a monster is special summon the extra deck, special summon a World Legacy token to both players' fields in defense position. I think this is more used as the battle trick effect, but the tokens can help you out a lot in Orcus because they're dark machines. But in general, you don't want to be summoning tokens to your opponent's side of the field that are good, because that's dangerous in these days in the Links. Just giving him free Link mats. And then let me compress down some of these things again, clean up my tabs. Feeling a sudden hunger attack as we're going, so I'm kind of trying to speed this up a little bit. We've only got one more actual primary monster to look at. And it's kind of our apex of what's going on here. But this is kind of how these things end up with Nightmare Incarnation Idli. So this is...
Actually, right.
Yeah.
Did we talk about this when we do Guard Dragons?
We could, because it is definitely supposed to be a Guard Dragon card. She is not in the Guard Dragon archetype, interestingly enough. And I don't... Let me double check. She does have level 9 synergy. But she also has... I guess she argues she has some Nightmare synergy, because there are no... Oh, actually, no. There are a couple of Guard Dragon links. They're just all banned. That's why I don't remember them. I don't think you can make it to her... let me describe her effects later for stuff, and you'll see that, like, while she does have Guard Dragon synergy, there's also a lot of other stuff that
Got the key.
Weird
She's got
shit
the soul
going on.
of the guard dragons. So it's like
Yeah, she
damn.
does have the guard dragons. She's got the key scythe thing from Galatea, because this is the ultimate form of Orcus Nightmare after like Lee wakes up and takes
And
up
Galatea's
Galatea's
punches got
body and
ejected
shit.
out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and shit like that. But it also got like a serpentine body, very like Echidna and stuff with the horns. You know, also obviously very huge. Got all the different guard
I
dragon
think the
souls.
World Gears is like happening in the background.
Yeah. This is also from the same time period that Deus Ex Crawler got his shit together. But yeah, this is where Lee ends up as a giant demon snake lady with dragon hair,
Just
which works for some people, as somebody in chat said. Oh no, she's
I know you
hot.
wouldn't get this Omega, but she's just Cassandra from Dark Souls at the end of it.
I mean, I actually think, because I do kind of get that, because I know a lot about Dark Souls. Just because I haven't played Dark Souls doesn't mean I don't know. And I kind of disagree. I don't think there's anything really Dark Soulsy about this.
I more meant as in like the lady that is determined to live to the very end of the dark days, to the very end, no matter how many people she has to kill for it.
Yeah, okay, but that's not related to any of her appearance stuff that I was talking about. Anyway,
All right.
Italy is in Japanese is Astroimeru Aidorisu. So it's Astroimere. Again, like I said, the Destroymere thing is very funny because it's not like really paired up. Idlis. But that also is like Aidorisu is like idols. Her name with the like katakana effect is illusory reincarnating star Idlis. So there's some interesting, weird pun stuff. This is, her reincarnating again. She is a level 9 Dark Fairy, 2121. Yes, her stats are bad for a level 9, but the level 9's thing is a guard dragon thing. Level 9 monsters you control can't be destroyed by card effects. You can use each of the following effects of Nightmare Incarnation Idli once per turn. If the total link rating of monsters on the field is 8 or more, quick effect, special summon this from your hand. So I don't think guard dragons can do that on their own. They've only got 2 link 1s and a link 2? I believe so. So I think that's kind of why she's still counted as a nightmare, because they're still doing the Troymare kind of funny joke here, the reference. So you can actually special summon her that way. If this card is special summon while your opponent controls more link monsters than you do, send all link monsters from the field to the graveyard. So I kind of like a cycle of creation, destruction, removal. This is important for guard dragon stuff because she's a 9 and that's kind of their thing, but also it works in a few other statuses. Obviously, you can... I'm pretty sure, and Marth, I think, is in chat, can fact-check me, but I'm pretty sure Mermaid was banned by the time this card actually came out in Dark Neostorm, but I think actually what you're supposed to do is not summon Orcus Nightmare, but summon this with Mermaid, because that would immediately cause Mermaid's effect, Incarnation's effect to proc. Because it says, if this card is special summon, all your opponent controls more link monsters.
Am I wrong for thinking that I think it got released like the set afterwards?
Yeah, because this is Dark Neostorm. Let me actually run down when Orcus Nightmare came out. Let's see. That was Savage Strike. It was a set or two before, yeah. So it's entirely possible that Mermaid was already banned by the time this came out, or was very close to being on the way out. But Orcus Nightmare is such a crazy piece of Orcus tech that being able to make it in, summon it for free in Mermaid and get it out is crazy, But yeah, Italy can be summoned off of Mermaid's effect, and I think that's probably what her second effect is intended to do, because if this is a special summon, all your opponent controls more Link monsters. So if you just make a Link 1 discard a card, you can be like, yo, Link monsters, fuck them, send them to the graveyard. And it kind of fits what we're going for aesthetically. We do have a few card arts, some spell cards I want to throw out there. Okay, so very briefly, for a couple of months, you would have been able to play Italy as a Mermaid target. Again, I do not believe from what people have told me about that meta. I wasn't playing in 2019 and paying attention. I think that it was Nightmare that Orcus Nightmare is why people were hitting it, but it is a target. All right, so we got just a couple of card arts to show you real quick. So first is World Legacy Corruption. This is Ibli shows up and actually sucks all the goop out of everybody. She's taking all the gems. You'll notice that Blue Sky is kind of like pushed to the back on the side right next to Aurum. So, explains why his gem doesn't get sucked out immediately.
And Gears is just like, what the fuck is happening?
He's like, what is going on? World Legacy Corruption is a weird card because it's a continuous spell that says once returned if a face-up Link monster is destroyed by battle or leaves the field because of an opponent's card effect. Special summon a World Legacy from your hand or deck in defense position. So it's World Legacy support.
I just noticed a fun bit of like Aurum's sword just kind of like broke on the rock, and it like kind of like bled over into the rock.
Yeah.
Sorry, that's annoying.
No, it's fine. I'm working on cards and stuff. So. All right, and then. Also, speaking of the rock, apparently that rock is a chasm. Because Aurum and Blue Sky fall into a ravine, and Blue Sky saves Aurum, and this is where he begins his transition to Avram. World Legacy Succession, by the way, is a crazy good card. It's just a generic Link support card. Target a monster in your graveyard, special summon it to a zone, a Link monster points to. It's just a good card.
Yeah.
But also thematically appropriate, because this is, Blue Sky saving Link Aurum's butt.
So I think at this point it's that the Mekk-Knights weren't the World Destroyers anymore. They were just trying to safeguard what remained of the planet, I think, at this point.
Yeah, I think once they were split into the 7 separates, basically their purpose is just safeguard the World Legacies, and I think the idea is that...
They detected Lee.
I don't know about that. I think it's that because they're guarding the World Legacy bits, Lee needs the World Legacies to awaken the power of destruction. And that's the thing that's, happening. That's another thing that I think is part of Idli, by the way, is she's, kludging all the bits together. All right, so this I can also grab. And now, technically, Ibli had not made the Nightmares yet. That's not until we get to this card, World Legacy Nightmare, with an N. This is, you can see in the background, I guess Imduk is little again, and Mekk-Knight Avram jumping out of the hole.
He then goes to see Ningirsu fighting off.
But yeah, Ningirsu is 1v6ing all of the Nightmares after Avram fell in the hole.
It's also, I feel like he's lost his World Chalice powers, so
he's back to regular him.
Which is good on you, man. You fought.
Well, I know. I think technically, Ibli also took those back because she's the World Chalice fairy.
I know. I mean, yeah, but I'm more saying in this case, it's I think he kills Goblin here, and then he fights off the others. Because the way it's angled, it looks like he's gonna grab Goblin by the head.
Yeah. But the important thing here is that Ningirsu continues to fight these guys. While Ibli goes to get the last gem power from Avram, because he is Avram now. By the way, this is the Nightmare Field spell. It's just you take no battle damage from your co-linked monsters. Once you can activate one of these effects. Move a Nightmare monster to another of your main monster zones. Switch to Nightmares. So it just lets you do the Nightmare co-link thing. Funny enough, I don't think anybody seriously tried to play it. Again, because I don't really obviously you can use Mekk-Knights as the main deck component of Nightmares, but not having a lot of main deck monsters, it's one of those things where I'm like, Konami, how do you expect people to play a Nightmare deck? They need 40 cards. They are mandatory required to have 40 cards in their main deck. It's an interesting idea that I don't think they properly thought about. Anyway, next, our last couple bits of story here before we take our break. And if we can get them more boys, we will try and be back for Charmer next week, hopefully. But this is World Legacy Awakens. Imduk is back to his little form, but he, calls upon his guard dragon powers to awaken the spirit of Ib inside Ibli, who is punched out Avram. Yeah, punched out Avram, taking his sword, and is going to kill him. But this little dragon dog says, no.
It's like, Ib, you're in there, kick her ass.
So World Legacy Awakens is a trap card, a normal trap that says, blink summon a link monster using materials you control. Some people do actually play that sometimes. Though usually there's better in archetype stuff. For instance, there's a card that does that better in Live Twin for Live Twin. Then we get World Legacy Struggle. Some of you might find this a content warning, so, be cautious. But basically, Lee's spirit grabs hold of the blade and goes to stab herself. You can tell that immediately Imduk and Aura and Avram are like, nope, wait, hold on, also, not what I meant.
Also, Lee is not happy about this either.
No, she's like, hold on, wait a minute.
It's like, don't.
I just got this body.
It's like, this is my body
Struggle
now,
is another, normal link support card. Target spells, traps on the field up to the number of co-linked monsters, destroy them.
This is maybe bad of me, but I enjoy, like, how unamused Ibli looks right now about this whole endeavor.
Yeah, it's not really horrified. She's just like, no, wait, don't do that. No.
I worked so hard to do this. Stop.
And then we get the final step here, World Legacy Sorrow. Ib is super dead. Everybody is sad. Ningirsu has picked the literal worst moment to show up as, clearly stabbed by his sword. Avram cradles Ib in his arms.
In this case, it also looks like... I feel like Ningirsu, like, this case is like... I image him, like, you could do a whole bit about him, like, dragging his body across the city to get here. And
he is
like,
pretty beat up. He's got, like, his arm in a sling. I think he had to pause for that. But, yeah, he shows up at, like I said, the literal worst possible time.
I mean, Avram doesn't look like he's having a good time either. But
no.
Also, at least Ib looks like she has her life back. Because, like, either she's dying, it's just... It looks like she's back in control
Ibli was,
again.
stopped, but it's a very terrible ending because, there's this whole situation going on. By the way, World Legacy Sorrow is a counter trap. While you control a co-linked monster, when it activates a spell trap or monster effect, it's an Omni Negate. Negate and destroy. So it's kind of your, universal link card.
Something just kind of hit me. Oh. Mm-hmm. I feel like I could see a whole bit of Avram yelled at, like, that he didn't want to do it, and then, like, Ib did it to herself, and then he was just like, I don't care what you said.
Yeah, basically, yeah, we leave. There's, bad things happening.
I don't think he won't listen, because it's like, she's dead,
yeah,
fuck
she's
you.
Dead. Yeah. And then this is the card. I left my zone there. This is the card we leave off on.
Look at all these fantasy races.
This is the World Legacy's memory. Yes, also, it's important to note, there is, like, an animal person here. There's a tiny little gremlin creature.
Like a Lalafell there.
Yeah, there's a Lalafell. There is a literal elf, and also, Lee looks kind of elfish.
Lee looks like she's kind of like a dragon girl.
Yeah, it's hard to tell if those are hair clips or horns. So it could really go both ways. Anyway, all we know is that original timeline Lee hot, despite her evilness. There's also a perfectly normal human man here. But this is World Legacy's memory. This is basically part of the flashback along with Mekk-Knight of the Morning Star. Basically, over the course of our next time skip, both our heroes find this out. These scientists studied the key. They put the key into the core of Morning Star, so that they would be able to control the power of destruction. But they were all deceived. Quote Lord of the Rings here by Lee. So, yeah, that's kind of like where this leaves off with some backend information.
I'm amazed that, like, their first... this is maybe stupid of me to think about, but I feel like it's kind of dumb that their first project to test this was a giant robot instead of, like, other things.
I mean, we don't know for sure. I think it is implied that, they did other stuff with the key to go to this. But, yeah, the key's the big ramp-up. Star Relics... Oh, by the way, this is a pun in Japanese. Star Relics Mekk-Marie. This is actually a Mekk-Knight card, by the way. Funnily enough, special summon a Mekk-Knight monster from your hand or deck and defense position return to your hand on your end phase. For the rest of this turn, you can only special summon Mekk-Knights.
Honestly, I feel like there's new cards they could make. One is just the key itself.
Yeah, it's true.
And then also one that is actually just Lee as the Mekk-Knight
as setting this up. Yeah, there's some room there. Nightmares technically don't need any extra deck support. Like, okay, I'll phrase it this way. If Konami was to actually try and make a Nightmare deck playable, they probably need several more main deck monsters, and they need retrains of Goblin and Mermaid that are archetype locked, that are not generic, so that you can actually play a Nightmare strategy. I don't think Konami needs to sell anybody on playing a Nightmare strategy. As I've mentioned, the non-banned Nightmares, except for Griffin, are all, like, generically really good and useful and very potent in a lot of decks. You see them tacked in anything Link-based. I, fucking play the shit out of Phoenix and Kerberos and Unicorn in all of my Link-based decks. Because, hey, they're fiends, which also means they get around stupid extra deck locks in shit like Live Twin and Labyrinth. Those guys are fiend decks, so they have lots of you're locked to fiends. Oh, what can I make out of my extra deck? Oh, wait, the entire Nightmare package. So there's definitely some wiggle room for Konami to revisit Nightmares, but I just think they probably won't. Mekk-Knight probably could use some additional support. I think Avram and Girsu, who we'll talk about later, are very useful in that respect, but I don't think Spectrum Supreme cuts it as a big boss boy, and other decks make Avramax way easier.
Would it be better to have... Because I feel like if they made Lee, they could make it as a weird Nightmare Mekk-Knight bridge card.
They probably could. And I think, like I said, technically I assume that's what Konami intended, because you need Nightmare monsters. You need Link fodder to make Nightmare monsters. So where are you getting them, right? Like, literally your only main deck monster is Ibli. And the way she works is, like, you can use her to make Mermaid to summon another Ibli. That doesn't do anything,
You're right. I was also saying that, like, if they made Mekk-Knight Inventor or / Engineer,
a
card, it would work good it would work better as a bridge card, honestly.
Yeah, give more reasons to do. You could also give make a Mekk-Knight Link 1 that could basically replace what Mermaid was supposed to do in the deck,
I feel like they could make the key that.
I mean, they could just errata Knight, Mermaid, and Goblin, but Konami doesn't usually like to do that with cards. They prefer to retrain cards because that's a card obviously if they errata a card, they print it anyway. That's what's happening with AFD, but...
I feel like the World Legacy key is, like, a World Legacy Link 1 thing that, like, only works for, like, bringing bridge between all the different World Legacy things.
That could work. That's kind of how
it bridges between Guard Dragons.
Kind
and
of how
Nightmares
Lib worked, but Lib
and
is
Mortalis.
special because you make her later. They could make an origin to that. Anyway, what I was saying really quick was just errata is usually reserved for like anime cards because they want to like the anime is part of the marketing hype, literally. So they want to make sure that cards that exist in the anime can be played in the card game, but barring obviously like rotations of Forbidden and Limited lists like normally, but. They want to make sure they still do stuff, so that's how you get shit like Sed and Firewall Dragon and AFD now and stuff. The way they eroded like Darkstrike Fighter. So they want to make sure things that... Well, yeah, Goyo Guardian is also in the anime. And arguably is like infinitely worse. Like, honestly, they could de-errata Goyo Guardian, it would probably be fine. Nobody out here making generic Sync 6s and doing that, that matters. When I can just make Coral Dragon... So, like, it's, generally they could probably de-errata Goyo and nobody would care. But I think it would be better to, like, try and reprint. Wow, sorry, I keep realizing that my preview is so lagged. I set it back again. I don't know why it keeps skipping. But it's fucking 11 o'clock. We've been going for 2.5 hours, almost.
You're probably
We're going to wrap up here. There's a little bit of faff, but Dallas did not show up and Long did not show up, so it's okay. We speed ran. The boys are playing Dead Island 2, but I need to like
do some castle stuff.
Get a snack.
Like,
yeah, hopefully we can play King of the Castle. That's what we said. I gotta get my water again, and like I said, eat something. I'll probably make some toast or some shit. Hopefully, Love can also join us later for King.
Just go post that in the chat,
but,
and like they'll know. So.
Yeah, I think we're gonna wrap up. Like I said, hopefully we can get more guys. Yeah, Gold Pride seems neat. But hopefully next week Loth can join us, and Dallas will also maybe be able to join us. We can actually do Charmer. Otherwise, if it's just the two of us, we'll keep on keeping on down this World Legacy train. The next one should be... Oh, gosh. Should that be both Orcust and Crusadia?
I don't. I think
It should
Crusader
definitely
kind of
be
a- Crusader has a
Crusadia.
lot of cards.
I'll have to actually like plot it out. So we'll figure it out. Anyway, thanks so much, everybody. For showing up. I appreciate all your views. I would love as I look in the chat and see very few people who are chatting, though there are some of you. Thank you. But I see very few of you who are chatting who have membership stars. It'd be real rad if you could give us a YouTube membership. It's only $1.99 a month. You get access to the badge and emotes and stuff, and it's super cool, and it helps support us. And as I look at my bank account and I look at my need to buy groceries, I, continue to go, my Crunchyroll membership is due soon. My fucking FF14 sub is kind of important now. That's coming up soon. Getting my emails about that. So I'd love if you could chip in. Obviously, your super chats and stuff are nice. I will never say no to a super chat. I super appreciate that when you jump in the moment. But ongoing support is super cool too, so consider YouTube memberships or Patreon. But also just make sure to like this video, share it to your friends, share it to your enemies, whatever. Pop us in the thing. And, like I said, consider the ongoing memberships or a little bit of stuff there. Yeah, I know, you're a patron. It's fine. You do one of the things, but I'm just saying. There are plenty of people in this chat who are not starred, so I know that you could do more juice. You could support us. It's not really that much. Did's a fucking whale patron, so you don't really need to quibble about the membership. But this is what I mean. There's some people here who aren't patrons or aren't members, so I will, consider giving us a little bit of get. But also, you can just watch all our videos. Fire up a Failed Portrayal playlist. It's a playlist. Go to the end of this video, find the playlist, watch all of them. I'll give you some ad revenue. Anyway, this has been Failed Portrayal for this week. Like I said, hopefully we'll be back to Charmer next week, and if not, I will continue to hold on until there. Yeah, I could take a thumbs up, everybody. I'm appreciating this. Listen, if you support already, I'm not here for you, okay? It's like fucking... It's like I'm doing a bank heist, and then, my partners in the bank heist are like, hey, buddy, I've already given all I got to give. I'm like, no, I don't care about you. You already gave me money. This guy gave me money.
You already bought the equipment, dude.
It's like I'm playing around a payday, and my fellow bank heisters are like, when I press the, hands up button, are like, oh, me? But I'm like, no, not you. The people who haven't given me money. I'm trying to hook them into this business, okay? The guilt trip is not aimed at you. Anyway, we've been faffing around to make this an actual 2.5 hours. Watch content. Consume content. Give me your dollars. I would like to be able to reasonably afford the 25th anniversary set is out, but I don't want to drop $30 right this second because I have to drop $30 on other things
Everyone
like
here's still
food.
long enough. Eventually, if we get enough money, Omega will buy new editing software.
Also true. I mean, I don't really need new editing software. I need the money so I can buy a computer that's more powerful so that I could stream OBS and EDO Pro at the same fucking time so that we can do funny Yu-Gi-Oh things if you want more Yu-Gi-Oh.
Maybe you can start making overlays and stuff.
I mean, we don't really need... I can do overlay. We don't need overlays for most of our content. What do you think this chat thing is?
But the presentation helps.
I mean, other than like a frame border, which I could literally make, I just don't see the purpose for it. There's not... Actually, I don't know. I probably could make a header to just be like today's archetype, but...
Probably, yeah, just so like it's easy to like hop in and understand.
Then I have to
what's
make,
going on.
2 assets every stream. This is why you should consider giving me money, because, that makes me feel like I have to get off my ass and actually do work that you people show up to. Anyway. Thanks so much for watching. We're going now. We're going to go do other stuff. I'll see you next time. I'm going to go make some toast. Good night, everybody.
Oh yeah, Mega, before